here to sort of guide you through the proceeding today of the TM Drama Icons Teachmeet. Seb's working very hard in the background, sorting out all of the technical aspects of today. So I'm just going to take you through a couple of things before we start and hand over to Brett, who's going to talk about pupil progress, who are one of our sponsors today. So there's a couple of things just to make you aware of. We are running a selfie competition throughout the whole day. So if anybody who is on the talk or watching the talk could please post a selfie of themselves with the hashtag TM Drama Icons. The best 3 that are going to be picked from the session will receive a really good drama sticker prize from one of our sponsors, Teachers Love Stationery, who you'll hear a little bit more about as we go through. We've got an amazing group of speakers today who are going to be talking about a range of different things. For me, just in my practice, I think this is probably the perfect time of the year where I probably need a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of a kick to sort of start thinking about what I'm going to do in terms of my department and my practice and whole school agenda and things like that. So I think the range of speakers, and I know quite a few of them, and know that the quality is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to give us loads of food for thought and to get inspired throughout the day. If we could just encourage you to, on the hashtag TM Drama Icons, to make sure that we're carrying on those conversations on Twitter. Also, some really nice positive shout out to our speakers today who are giving up their time for free to come and speak to us. And also just, we know as drama teachers and heads of department that actually the best CPD that we ever get are the times where we can actually speak to other heads of department and teachers and talk about our practice. So please keep those conversations going on Twitter and sharing ideas, because that really is massively helpful. Particularly, that we'll have lots of people who are one person departments out there, people who maybe feel like they don't maybe get a lot of CPD in terms of drama specific. So this is the perfect place for us to share ideas and just get to grips with our subject, which I know is our passion really. So I'm going to, in a minute or two, just pass over to Brett from Pupil Progress. Just another thing to tell you about before we do that, which is a date for the diary, which is March the 12th, where we're hoping to stage an actual live event like this in Manchester. So just put that down in the date for your diary and keep an eye out on Twitter for details about that. But also, if there is anybody watching today who maybe would like to speak at that event or offer a certain expertise that they've got within the subject, like some of our speakers are doing today, then again you can private message on at TM Drama Icons, and the more people that we can get and the more people we can bring into the conversation to share ideas, the better really. So please do that would be amazing. So I'm just going to check whether Brett is nearly ready as we're passing over, because it's nearly 25 to. But if you haven't done that, then very quickly take your selfie and add it to the conversation as we pass over to Brett from Pupil Progress.
Good morning, everyone. Real pleasure to be here. I'm actually going to request to share screen straight away while I'm just kind of doing a very brief introduction to the technical team over at TM Icons. As you know, we've been sponsoring the event for a very long time. I'm going to cut to what is going to be most useful to you. We are really excited. We have actually partnered with Pixel, and I do implore you to just have a listen of this, because if you are a Pixel school, you can actually use what we're about to see at 0 additional cost. So our partnership with Pixel means that as part of you being a Pixel member school, you get access to 2 subject areas at 0 additional cost. So everything you're about to see now, you'll have full access to and full support from Pupil Progress, by the way. So what we're actually targeting here is you as teachers being able to have access to the information you need. We are not reinventing the wheel. We are supporting with you having a reduced workload and more clarity because of the amount of time you don't have due to other administrative tasks. What you're looking at here is a GCSE tracker that has been built for AQA. We have it for every exam board, for every qualification. What you'll see is when I actually start adding assessment outcomes to this tracker, it will automatically calculate a grade for me. It will also tag those against the specific assessment objectives or topic areas that you can add. It's going to tell me how they're performing against the minimum target grade. Amber, if they're working above red, below 2 or more, blue, working blue working above, green working at. The boundaries are preset by us. We upload them, we go to specification, and you can also add a percentage adjustment. We have an incredibly powerful individual student report. Now, this is something that is not only a huge time saver. We know as former teachers that data is more than just a name on a spreadsheet. And I heard that a lot when I was a teacher, and I hear it a lot now with the schools we work with. This allows you to communicate with the students and parents. Parent consultation evenings are transformed. They are focused. Not only do you have an increased buy-in from parents and the students and more motivation as a result of which, you also have this massive reduction in workload in preparation for raising attainment progress meetings, RAP meetings, your parent consultation evenings, any parent meetings where students might come in the next day, which you've got to get information ready for. We are able to do the heavy lifting for you. You can add your own tests. So it's not just fixed against the exam board. You can add your own end of topic tests. You can add your own assessments in a very, very easy to use interface. You can see here quite quickly, if I want to add a test, I can do so using end of topic tests. And I'm actually just going to add a test here just to show you how easy it is. I'm going to add it to the text in practice. This might be a mock for January. And then I will be able to add this at question level analysis too. So I'm going to add 2 questions. One is going to cover AO1 and it's going to be at 10 marks. And question 2 is going to be covering AO2 and is also going to be 10 marks. Now you can see I can add more than 1 question. I can add multiple, and then I can then just check the tracker that I'd like to add that to, and then I'll add it to the system. And what you're seeing here is you're not having to muck around with VLOOKUPs, formula, difficulties with departments not being able to use Excel as effectively as what you'd like. We have done all of the functionality that you're looking for on an Excel or Google sheet for you so that you can access the information you need in real time. Lastly, and to kind of sum up, because I've only got about a minute left, if you are actually delivering different qualifications, for example, level 3 BTECs, level 2 BTECs, any Cambridge Nationals, we have built the tracking bespoke to those to meet those needs too. So it's not just GCSE and A-level heavy. You can see here an example of a Btec tracker that will actually calculate the grade against the exact point scores. And again, tell you how many points the student is away, all traffic lighted against their minimum target grade. Again, with a really, really accurate, up-to-date, live, real-time report for you to be able to tell those students, this is what I need from you, and this is what you're missing if you want to move forward and you want to achieve the target grade that you want to achieve. Now, I want to show you how to access this. Again, I just want to stress it is absolutely accessible, full use of every qualification for every year group through Pixel membership. You can also free trial as well. So if you're not a Pixel school, you can trial this for 4 weeks to see if it's useful for you. And we can also do a discount as a TM Icons member. To do so, just go to pupilprogress.com. You'll be able to find out everything you need to know. You can either click on Get Started Now if you know you're a Pixel school, and then there you'll be able to find out if you are. So if I type in a school that I know is a Pixel school, it will come up. I'll select the school, and then you'll see that I've got my Pixel membership available. If I want to find out more about Pixel membership, I can actually just go and click on the Pixel icon, and it will bring me to a landing page that will tell us all of our terms and conditions if you want to read a little bit more about it and be a little bit more well-informed before you do register. I can't stress enough, there is zero cost, but do go and do your back reading. We have everything you need to know, including a nice FAQs page if you do have any additional questions. I'm going to stop sharing because I've gone over by about 40 seconds. I thank you so much for your time, and I really hope you enjoy this morning. The events are always class. You know, it's still incredible. It's free CPD, so get it all in.
Thanks very much, Brett. That's amazing. I'm just thinking to myself, because we're a Pixel school, so I will be straight on that on Monday. Not only will that save me time, but my poor head of languages, who's my current Excel guru, who I take my laptop to crying every week because I can't work out how to change a colour.
It's a common story. It's a common story.
Amazing. So that's really, really good. Thanks very much for that.
Just very quickly, the TM Icons team are going to share that link also live today, that landing page you just saw. So I'll leave you to it. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brett. Brilliant. Thanks very much. One amazing thing, just stood there, like sat here just with my eyes wide open going, I need that in my life, I need that. So that's really good. So please have a look at that if you can. In a second, we're just going to check that Lucy and Eva are ready, who are going to give us talk about sound design and ways that we could be using that with our students. Just a reminder, the selfie competition. All right, please post yourself with a selfie watching the event and get involved online on the Twitter handle, hashtag TM Drama Icons, or at TM Drama Icons as well. Are we ready, Lucy and Eva?
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks, Rob. Hi. I just want to say morning to everybody, and thank you so much for having us again at Teachmeet. We took part in the first one, so I'm Lucy from We Teach Drama, and in the first one we were joined by Josh Tomlin, who is a professional lighting designer, and this morning I'm joined by professional sound designer Eva Collins Alonso. Morning, Eva.
Hello, how are you?
Now, you will know Eva if you've already done some webinars with us, because she did our very first Think Like a Sound Designer webinar, which was nearly a year ago now, Eva. Can you believe that?
I know. Time flies.
And you'll know Eva because she's done loads of resources for us. She is sound designer extraordinaire, and she's going to get embarrassed now. And she is a professional Foley artist. And she eats, I think it's fair to say you eat, sleep and breathe sound. Is that right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, backstage in general, I really enjoyed everything in backstage theatre. But yeah, sound specifically, because I'm now I've been for the last 3 years almost developing a show that's all about sound. So yeah, I do eat, breathe and dream sound.
And we're going to hear about that show today. Your show that you've been working on for the last 3 years is called Radiophonics. This is the perfect case study if you're teaching sound design to students, Key Stage 3 and above. This is a show which is about the history of radio. Okay, so think Delia Derbyshire, the BBC, studios that were doing all that amazing experimental stuff in the 1950s. This is what, well, I think you go back even further than that, Eva, as well, don't you, in your research? But this whole show is about the history of radio, which is so exciting. And you've just performed it in Spain. Is that right, Eva? You managed to do it sort of post-lockdown, and you've just performed it live.
Literally like 20 days ago, we performed in Alicante in Spain. And yeah, it was really successful. We really enjoyed it.
Good. Reception good? You got a good feedback?
Absolutely, yeah. And what was really nice is that we had a very different kind of audiences. We had the people who were sponsoring us, the people, just friends and family, or people who are from the theatre world, people who are sound designers, radio artists, and everybody enjoyed different parts of it. People were, and I think that's the best feedback, when you get loads of different kind of people enjoying your show. It means it means it was good.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I think teachers are going to really love hearing about this today. So I'm going to start sharing, because I think you're going to start talking us through a little bit about what Foley is, and then you're going to talk about radiophonics. And then in the second half of our presentation, Eva and I are going to share an amazing lesson with you to teach sound design at Key Stage 3, and you're going to have all the resources to teach that next week if you want to start doing that. So I'm going to share my screen as everybody tells everybody they're doing. Okay. Okay. Okay, is that okay? Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Good. And okay, Eva.
Do you want to share my slides?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, wrong one.
Start talking.
that would be helpful, wouldn't it? Okay. Right, let's go. Okay, there we go, Eva. Is that okay? Can you see it, Eva?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. Okay, not to worry. I'm going to go back. Sorry, folks.
I can actually start talking through, because Lucy introduced me as a Foley artist, and I suppose Foley is a really old a really old sound technique, which kind of goes back to the beginning of cinema. It goes back to the origin of radio, and I suppose it's called Foley because the guy who started to practice this was called Jack Foley, and what he found is that films, when they started to introduce sound into films, they didn't really know, they didn't sound real because they didn't have everyday sound effects. So he started to, you know, behind the screen, start recording the sound of footsteps, the sound of clothes, the sound of doorsteps, and all these kind of things that he later on introduced into film in post-production, right? So, but this was actually a technique that had been developed for years in radio. So what you have now, through the research I've been doing, I kind of find that we have like Foley in film, which happens in post-production, and then we have Foley in radio, which actually most of the time happens live as radio actors perform their lines. Then that you have Foley artists who are making the sound effects. So you might have somebody who says, "Oh, I'm going to have a cup of tea," and then somebody, you know, another person sips from some, you know, from a cup of tea, and then you get the sound effect and the script. Then, of course, in theatre, it's actually originally it happened backstage. So especially in magic shows, and especially in yeah, so here you can see what it is in film. Maybe a lot of us are familiar. You know, you kind of have the big screen, you see it happening on screen, and the Foley artists just make the live sound effects as they watch the screen, which are then recorded and put together in post-production. Then in radio, it was all, you kind of had the performers read their lines, and then a bunch of Foley artists in the background doing sound effects. And then in theatre, which is it kind of originally happened backstage, as I was saying earlier, and then nowadays a lot of people use it as an aesthetic or visual choice, so the audiences can see how sound is being made. So having said this, I want to talk to you about my show Radiophonics, which Radiophonics is it's not, I've kind of done so many processes so far, also because we had the pandemic in between, and we kind of started developing before the pandemic. So I kind of think of it now not as just a show, but it's actually like a creative process. It is some sort of framework. It's like an aesthetic where what as an audience you see sound being made visual. And then actually a sound is really important in driving the story. So I work with a sound designer and Foley artist who's called Anael. I work with a theatre director who's Ed Gocken, and a theatre producer who's Peter Smith, and many different performers in different faces. We've worked with a different kind of performer in each face. Sometimes actors, sometimes comedians, sometimes circus practitioners, radio actors. And what we do is just kind of, it doesn't really matter what story we're telling, but it's a matter of combining efforts in between sound and storytelling, and making the story kind of drive and come out from sound. So, you know, we do collaborate in different ways, and we just really try to make sound be part of the story from the get-go. So in the first creative process in Spain, this was in 2018, we started creating a story where I wanted sound. So in each phase, I'm just going to talk you through the three different creative processes we did, and I'm going to tell you how sound was visually engaging and how sound directed the storytelling, right? So as you can see in these images here, sorry, let's go back one. Okay, so as you can see in these images, you can see the audiences were sat on the round surrounding the performers. So then it was kind of really visually engaging because audiences really wanted to like look over to see what the performers were doing on the table. And then we actually used loads of different lamps and different kind of lights with different colors that were associated to different sounds. So, you know, you kind of had like a blue moment, which referred to one part, to some, you know, certain style of sounds, and a yellow part. So it kind of really helped to visually understand what was happening with sound. In the creative process, sound really directed storytelling. Firstly, because people, you know, the audience were invited to see how a radio station worked behind the microphones, and actually what happened is the whole story was inspired by different moments that we researched about the origin of radio, or, you know, how radio had really changed entertainment, let's say, you know, from the ships on Radio Caroline to Delia Derbyshire. We kind of went through all these different moments in the history of radio. The second creative process, which happened, I think it was January and February 2020. And so this was really nice. This happened in Norway. And so again, the sound was really visually engaging because now it was just one act, you know, two actors, Foley artist and performer. They kind of both performed using Foley. They kind of combined efforts to use Foley techniques, and the audiences could really see how they made thunder, how they made the sound of a storm with everyday objects. And then what we did is use loads of graphs to make the sound. We kind of draw these graphs, and the sound kind of accompany these graphs, which actually I've got a short clip that I wanted to show you if we have time. Is that okay? In the next slide. Okay. That's it. This is a short video that we did just to kind of promote the show that we were doing. Can you hear it?
A little bit. It's a bit low, but we can hear it.
This is the BE axis.
So anyway, we kind of drew these graphs, and actually each, you know, when there was a story that ended on a happy end, then it'll be like sounds that kind of, you know, make you think of happiness. And then when it was a sad ending, you had sounds that made you think of sad endings. And we really played around with the different scopes of like sound that we could play around with. In the third creative process, which is the one that's just happened in Spain recently, this was a really fun. We were also two you know, Foley artist and actor, and what was really nice here is that we really played to, on one hand, have a story that we were telling. So this was a story about a woman who lived in a rural village inland Spain, and then what was happening, and, you know, that was kind of the story that that a radio audience could hear, but then actually the theatre audience could also see what the, you know, the relationship in between performer and sound artist. So, you know, there were funny moments where suddenly you could see a walk down to the forest was made with loads of different kinds of leaves, and then and you know, as the Foley artist was making the sounds of in the storyline walking down to the river, then you can suddenly see the performer going like, you know, let's cut this, I don't want to walk down to the river. And that created a really comedic situation where a lot of the audience felt that this was really improvised and it was really playful, and it was just a really nice visually engaging way to think about sound and see sound being performed. Great. So I have a short little video. Well, we're going to send you these. We can share it if you want. I'm just aware of time. This is just a short video that is still in English, and you just kind of see, for example, this sample that I was telling you about walking down to the river was made like this. This was part of the preparation that we did at home beforehand, and it's in English. But
I can't show that at the moment, Eva. So you might have to just send that out as part of the,
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, and then we do have a fourth creative process upcoming in the UK, which is going to take place in January and February next year. And yeah, we've got a bunch of sponsors helping us out in England. And yeah, I really look forward to sharing this with you soon. Let's hope there's no pandemic again.
Fantastic, Eva. That's great. Thank you so much. I think having that as a case study, and teachers can connect with you. You've got your own YouTube channel, and there are some radiophonics clips on there. And then all of the clips linked to radiophonics will be in the PowerPoint. That is going to be part of the resources from this as well. We've got a really quick exercise now, which links to what you were saying about developing the relationship between the Foley artist and the narrator. So I'm gonna just share my screen again, and we're just going to talk you through this exercise, and it includes a really great clip, which is Orson Welles and Dean Martin. And this is what you would just show to your students to begin with. So Eva really turned me on to this clip. It's just amazing. It's about early radio, and it really shows the relationship between a narrator on stage and the Foley artist. Okay.
Yeah.
Cause of death was ancient Chinese murder weapon. Victim beaten to death with soggy egg roll. All the Studio B where I was in a soap opera. On that soap opera, I had a girl in the rumble seat of a car for 30 weeks, and what really went on in that rumble. Thank you, senior citizens. The shadow in which I was for my sins.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get onto the...
I'll never forget one day we had a rather sorrowful character. I hope it was impossible. Let me show you.
There we go.
There we go.
The NBC Blue Network brings you another episode of Johnny Pistachio, Private Eye.
The city was asleep as I returned to my apartment. Everything was quiet. Except for the occasional sound of a tugboat in the East River. And once in a while, a taxi below my window. The tower clock was striking 3. My skull throbbed from the pistol whipping I'd taken as I tossed my shoes on the floor and jumped into bed.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing this now.
I think this is a really good example, because you can really see, you know, it's just as simple as going like, once upon a time there was a big, you know, there was a lake in the forest, and then immediately you can start recreating the sounds around that and actually start playing, which is what I meant with it being like visually engaging, is that if you just hear that, then it's one thing, but if you see, you know, how Orson Welles kind of looks over, the other one just, you know, the other guy just hits the gong twice and then goes like, oh, 2 more, and you can see that kind of comedic improvisation in between them, and it's really, it can be really visually engaging.
Absolutely. I think when you show the clip to your students, and you only need to show them a little bit. You can say, what do you observe about the two performers in terms of their vocal and movement work? And is it improvised or rehearsed? I think that's really important to discuss, isn't it, Eva? Because as you say, their response will probably be, well, it's totally improvised. But of course, we know that it's not. It's so rehearsed down to the wire, isn't it? Which I think it's important for them to understand.
Yeah, I think because what happens is that you need to play, you can improvise once you know what scope of sounds you have. So these guys have clearly prepared all these sounds. They have the bed, they have a gong, they know that there's going to be the sound of a boat, of a taxi. They maybe don't know in what order it's gonna happen. It depends kind of how playful they can play, you know, how playful their relationship is. But you know, you have to have a clear setting of what sounds you have and how far you can actually perform those sounds.
So you showed them the clip, you had a discussion about the clip. Now, a little bit of preparation is needed with this because you need to have some objects in the classroom or in the drama studio. You can do this in a classroom, which are all different objects that they can use to explore Foley. Here are some suggestions from Eva. These are going to be in the PowerPoint we're going to send out about really great objects that make fantastic sounds for Foley. So things like plastic bags, you know, just everyday things that you can use really that have a specific. I love that. Throw a big book on the floor and it sounds like a body falling or a big piece of meat. I love that. And then other objects bringing from home. It just going to take a little bit of preparation, but also the students can bring these things in themselves. When they've experimented with those sounds in the drama studio or in the classroom, they're then going to do a piece of creative writing, 5 to 10 lines of narration that the narrator, who is the Orson Welles character, is going to read out, okay? But they must think about how they're going to incorporate the sounds when they're writing the narration and have those sounds in mind. Then they're going to rehearse it. A is the narrator and B is the Foley artist. And then they're going to perform it. And your success criteria could be very similar to what Eva's has been for radiophonics, which is that it needs to be visually engaging. We need to see the sound effects being physically performed on stage, that sound drives the story, and that maybe there's moments of comedy like there was in the clip, where maybe the Foley isn't always accurate and the comedy that comes from that. And really to explore this relationship between the Foley artist and the narrator, okay? Okay, so I know we have whizzed through that so quickly, Eva, but we really wanted you to hear about Eva's radiophonic show, and also we wanted to share a really specific exercise with you. All of the slides, and we're also going to do PDF, which is a step-by-step process of that exercise that actually could be like a mini project, couldn't it, Eva, with students?
Totally, yeah.
You could develop and several lessons as well.
Exactly, yeah, I was going to say that. Depends how much how inspired the students get, then yeah, it could be a one-off session, or you could I've been 3 years doing this now, so it could turn into a lifetime achievement. So yeah, it's very good fun, because once you start playing around, it depends. Sometimes the narrator guides and then the sound artist follows, the Foley artist follows. Sometimes it can be the other way around. It can be the Foley artist who starts just creating sounds, and the narrator just follows or performs whatever they imagine in those sounds.
They'll have real fun with this, won't they? They love playing with these objects. They love exploring sound effects. And also you can apply it to any theme or set text or genre. You could give different groups different styles. You could say you're going to do the haunted house, you're going to do 1930s American radio plays, you're going to do. So I think, really play around with it. Thank you so much, Eva. I think we're up to time, but please connect with Eva on her YouTube channel. You're going to have all the resources to deliver these lessons, and please do connect with us at We Teach Drama. There's loads more sound resources in our resource library, so please do go to our homepage for more information on that. Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to say before I leave, well done, everybody. You guys are doing a really good job.
Yeah, thanks, team. Thank you for organising this morning. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Seb, and to everybody's fantastic CPD.
Thanks very much. That's really helpful. There's loads and loads of stuff there that I was just thinking about what I could take into my practice as well, because from Key Stage 3 through to A-level. You know, we're currently doing our practitioners unit and looking at Emma Rice and the sort of knee-high style of theatre, which would be perfect for that sort of Foley sound. And I even have a year 8 scheme of work that I currently do on silent movies, which I'm thinking, could I add a couple of maybe extra lessons onto that towards the end of how sound could be brought in, and whether they could compare and contrast whether the comedy is better with or without sound, which could be a little piece of writing for a homework or an evaluation or a discussion that they could have. And just that idea, I think a lot of us, when we're sort of in very difficult situations at the minute with COVID and learning from home, that is a really, really good lesson or series of lessons that you could do with students, where they could use the objects around the house and they could create soundscapes, and hopefully, if they've got the ability, you know, post in their recordings of them recording, because they could even maybe do it themselves with a narrator and then do the sound effects and see how that works. So as an online scheme of work, which, you know, let's face it, in drama is sometimes very, very difficult to do, which we've all found out in the last 2 years, is a really, really good way. And I just love CPD that I feel like I can pick up and use like tomorrow, which I thought that was excellent. And I don't think I would ever use the language of Foley sound before, which I think I will now, you know, just in my brain for this week going into my teaching. So a big thank you to Lucy and Eva there. And the, you know, We Teach Drama resources are excellent as well, so please have a look at those. Just a reminder before we move on to our next speakers, which is Sarah and Beth, looking at using outside agencies. There's lots of conversations at the minute and people tweeting and stuff, which is excellent. So please remember, I have, for my sins, posted my own selfie on there as well to get the ball rolling. So please do that so you can be part of those lovely prizes, drama stickers later on. And can I just also just make sure that, you know, it's just really, really good to see people talking to each other. You know, if you look at, you know, any of the things that have been offered this morning, whether it was Brett with Pupil Progress, whether it was Lucy and Eva with Sound, or any of the ones coming up, if that sparks any ideas that you think, oh, I'm going to go and do that tomorrow, then please just put them out and share them with everybody. You know, it really is the best way for us to keep things exciting, particularly in times where we're really busy and, you know, there's lots of things going on and assessments and all of the different things that everybody's battling with. And it's also nice to just hear from people out there. It's great to hear people just being passionate about the subject, and that brings a certain amount of passion to us as we go through. So yeah, just a reminder of a couple of other things before we pass over. So the 12th of March, just in case you've missed the beginning or anything that I said before, we are hoping to have a live TM Drama Icons event, and if anybody would be interested in offering, like we've seen this morning, an area of expertise, or would like to speak at that event or be involved in that event, then please message us on @TMD Drama Icons, and that would be really helpful. The more the merrier, and that's what the people who've been speaking today are doing, and it just means that we can just keep sharing and keep bubbling things along. So Selfie Competition I've covered, March the 12th, and also just, you know, just in addition to this idea of CPD as we move forward, I didn't really use Twitter up until probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And actually I've found it a massive help. So if there are people out there who maybe currently don't use Twitter, I know that it can be a little bit of a minefield, but personally for me, in terms of education wise, I'm probably now reading more books, reading more blogs, and also just connecting with more drama teachers than ever done before from one of the great organizations that are out there that you'll hear from a little bit more as we move forward. So Selfie Competition, and we're going to move over to Sarah and Beth, who are going to be talking about the use of outside agencies. So if you're both ready, then I'll hand over to you. Oh, hello.
Hi.
Well, I don't know you.
We were just saying we haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. Bit different circumstances this time.
Bit different. But over to you.
Okay. Hi. My name's Sarah Fitzpatrick.
And my name's Beth Rowett, and we are from Trinity Academy Cathedral in Wayfield.
So I'm going to put this presentation up and share our screen, and we're just kind of like, well, we're just telling you a little bit about ourselves, so just so you can kind of get an understanding as to why we have chosen to kind of do this session about using external companies. So do you want to tell about your first while I do this?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I'm going into my 7th year of teaching, and our experience are between year 7 and year 11 students. I'm subject coordinator for drama at Cathedral Academy, and also an open drama co-champion alongside Sarah and Gemma Wolfington for West Yorkshire. Also, I'm an SLE for Trinity Academy Multi-Academy Trust. And we're just getting there at the moment.
We're really good at technical things. Hey, I hope that's okay. I also work at Trinity Academy Cathedral, and I've been teaching since 2006, which feels like a lifetime ago now. And I teach drama, obviously. Oh, I was so nervous. This is just silliness. We're here today to talk about using professional companies to anchor the Key Stage 3 curriculum. And it's something that we feel really passionately about, and it's something that we feel has completely changed our practice and our curriculum, and it's given it a really good overhaul.
So in terms of our school and our cohort of young people, we have just under 1,000 students on roll, and we've been based in Wakefield. The area is high deprivation, so about half of our students are pupil premium, and in terms of accessibility to the arts has been a real key sort of factor for us to bring London essentially and other amazing theatres across the country to our young people. And lockdown's been such an amazing opportunity in a different way to sort of do that.
And I think as well as we spent quite a bit of time during lockdown because the arts opened up in a way that I feel like they've never have before. And for us, it's made a massive impact in our learning. We've discovered so many more companies that we didn't know before. We have learned different practitioners. We've done lots and lots of training with lots of different companies and theatres. And so for our professional development, it's kind of been a complete game changer for us. And like Beth was just saying, for our students, this is something that we can then pass on. And a lot of our students don't even know there's a theatre in Wakefield. This is kind of like a reason behind it. And I think the first thing that we want to if you take anything away from this session, the first thing we want to say is connect with your local theatre. For years and years and years, so like I say, I've been teaching since 2006, and it's only about 3 years ago that we contacted the learning department at Wakefield Theatre, and since then so many doors have opened up for us because they've got contacts within the industry that we never had, and we've been able to then kind of build on those contacts and make relationships with different people. And we have been incredibly lucky over the last 3 years. We've got an amazing partnership with the National Theatre that's come through connecting with Wakefield, and then through the National Theatre we've made contact with Lung Theatre and Paper Birds, and we've got a really amazing network now around us, and it all started just by connecting with the learning and development team, learning engagement team, at the theatre. So job number 1 on Monday, if you aren't connected to your theatre, please contact and just get your name out there, let them know who you are.
So our rationale in terms of how we underpin our Key Stage 3 curriculum in this lovely triangle format is we've got the drama studio, so that's the classroom, so the traditional lens of the drama skills that you teach on a day-to-day basis. And in terms of that, what we're teaching our young people is underpinned by either a professional company or practitioner, whether that be in terms of virtual, that they're visually seeing it or doing those specific exercises by that particular company, and then also a context of the theatre, so where that piece of repertoire has been performed, so students get a context of it actually being a final product. So it goes beyond the drama studio, and every scheme of learning, which we're going to share with you in an overview in a second, is underpinned by this model. And we've noticed a fast improvement in knowledge and students being able to articulate that process and that product, and whether it be from a design perspective or performance perspective, they've been able to put all those three sort of elements together, really.
And starting that in Key Stage 3 really helps kind of have the groundwork ready for when they have to do all that Key Stage 4 for whichever exam board. So the skills and that kind of dialogue is already happening, which we found our Year 10s are quite articulate and understand this process and stuff. So it's not brand new information to them. So this is our curriculum overview. We at our school, we only have Year 8 and Year 9. We don't teach drama in Year 7, so that kind of brings its own challenges. That they don't know us until Year 8. So this is kind of another reason why we wanted to kind of really solidify this. So if you notice in we've got 6 kind of half terms, and then we've broken it down into what we're teaching, linked to the theatre, and then linked to the script that we are using. And it's hopefully it's quite varied, and we kind of think there's quite a really good through line through what we're doing. Talk to you, we're going to pick 3 of these out and kind of explain to you how exactly we do that in our classrooms, and so you can see how it works for us. And another thing to say, what we do is this curriculum overview is for this particular cohort of students, and what fits for these students may not fit Year 7 when we meet them, or like the years that are not even at our school yet. And we're quite interchangeable with them. So we might take Woman in Black out and replace it with a different text. Last year we did, instead of doing Amelia as page to stage, we were looking at Kinder Transport. And so it's just more about keeping it quite fluid, and again, linking with these different practitioners and using the resources that they do, and continuing to connect with them, and allows us to be able to be a bit more free with that, because we've got just a bit more knowledge of what is out there.
And I think as well, now theatres are open again, it depends on what's in the local area in terms of being able to take our students out and to the theatre. So that might be something, again, that we can adapt our curriculum accordingly for.
Okay. So we're going to talk about Frantic Assembly first and Beautiful Burnout. Just before we go on, we just want to be really clear that we're very aware that at Beautiful Burnout, there is quite a lot of language in that text, and we do teach it at Year 8. We do not let them do the swearing. It's not actually a script-based one. It is about Frantic Assembly, and it's the physical theatre skills that we teach through that. But we chose Beautiful Burnout to hook and engage boys, because it's all about boxing and to create that that movement language.
So on the Frantic Assembly website, it's called Frantic Digital, and there are sequences of video online resources that take you through specific warm-ups that the company did on that Beautiful Burnout performance, and it's all sequenced accordingly in terms of taking them step by step. Also with the videos that are led by professionals within that company, there are creative tasks that are sort of building block type activities, and really take the students step by step, and give you specific moments to pause and reflect, and develop that understanding of the underpinning of that physical theatre skill. We used it post lockdown last year for COVID recovery and activity. It worked really well in the social distance setting, as students could work solely in a space, and actually getting them physically active and into something after being on their own by a computer, doing that sort of remote learning. And it really worked, and was a really engaging piece of work and piece of learning.
And what we're kind of saying is, with this, what we're doing with our curriculum is not us saying don't just use online things. It's not trying to replace the companies coming in, but we're very aware like, as we all are, like restraints on budgets, and oh my gosh, we would love to have Frantic Assembly come in and teach like every single year, and then get Company 3 to come in, and Paper Birds or Splendid or Lung or any of those companies that do schools work. But we, like, the reality of that for all of us is slim, and that's kind of like part of our thinking as to how do we still bring those practitioners in. And yeah, the Frantic stuff's absolutely fantastic on this, because like it is led by a practitioner, and what our students have quite liked is that we've been joining in with them, so they've been able to see us sweating like, oh my gosh, I'm dying, when they're all doing the same thing, and it allows them to model their practices straight from their mouths, rather than my interpretation of what they've done. So and the videos are really, really, really clear. And on we just chose Beautiful Burnout again for that hook for boys.
There's so much more on there.
There's
There's Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time, Things I Know to Be True. There's lots of other resources, and as well with Frantic and Beautiful Burnout, there are video resources from different members of the company and interviews. So there's lots of different avenues in which you can sort of go down, really. It doesn't necessarily have to be that physical theatre practical element. You can look at the play and the processes of other performance roles or non-performance roles. And I know there's quite a lengthy video with Scott Graham talking about the intentions of the piece and things like that.
And then just to kind of add on to that, what we then do is that so we look at Beautiful Burnout, we look at Frantic Assembly, but then we look at how the National Theatre of Scotland, where it was like like they created it together, and how that how that process kind of went about. So again, it's given them that the students the extra knowledge about theatre, and about how companies and theatre companies work together and create what they're doing within their classroom. Okay, so next we're going to talk about Company 3. So I don't know if any, I bet there's quite a lot of people actually who have already signed up to do when this is over. If you haven't, it's an amazing idea, and it's linked to climate change. And I know that it was performed a couple of weeks ago to coincide with the climate change conference in Glasgow. But we really love Company 3 and their ethos. Everything about Company 3 is about young people's voices, and their plays are written by 13 to 18-year-olds. And we just thought that instead of having like older people writing young people's voices, they actually our students really kind of resonate with this. And we're currently putting together our own version of When This Is Over. But in our curriculum, Year 8 study their play Brainstorm, and we kind of do that with script. And we do that also as a devising process. So as part of that, we introduce them to the basics of script, because like I said, it's our second term and we've only just got them for drama. So they're like explaining how to read a script, how to interpret what they find. But then what we really, really enjoy about Company 3 is that they call their scripts a blueprint. And when you if you go in the back of their books, or if you buy the scripts, or you look on their online, they really encourage you to create your version of what they've done. So instead of using Company 3's young people's voices, making your own version of Brainstorm with the students that are in the room, and they give you loads of really amazing practical tasks to do. So it's a really, really, the students really enjoy actually making a play about teenagers for adults to kind of listen to.
And I think as well, with the practical exercises and tasks that they've given in that blueprint, it's really great to get to know the young people, and they've really enjoyed opening up in that safe space, in that safe drama studio as well, which has been they've really enjoyed it, haven't they? They've really engaged well with that.
And I think what it's done as well is for this one, it's made our students realise that acting and drama doesn't have to be made by adults. It can be made by young people.
Also, the National Theatre online platform, you can sign up. It's completely free, and we've got the link that we'll share with you at the end. You might already be on this platform. In terms of how we utilise this with our Key Stage 3 cohort, is we're looking at particular productions from the analysis, evaluation, actually performing that element of professional repertoire. So, for example, in our Year 9 scheme, we're doing One Man, Two Governors at the moment, looking at comedy and commedia dell'arte and how that is working within the classroom. And it's been absolutely fab so far with our students to sort of let themselves go and like really and enjoy themselves, and the element of seeing that and then physically being able to replicate or attempt to replicate and have a laugh in the classroom has been brilliant. Now, the National Theatre also have a wealth of resources on there in terms of reviewing performances, lesson plans, videos explaining what commedia dell'arte is and like that particular culture, and it's really, really useful to spark inspiration for lesson planning. And there are so many plays on that platform that can be accessible to you and to your students.
And another way we've used the National Theatre collection online is, this is probably not groundbreaking at all, but we've done some virtual theatre trips with students. So we've used two in particular at Key Stage 3. They've come to see Wonder.land, and they've had some popcorn, and they're all sat down watching a play that was performed in London at the National Theatre, and they're seeing that in Wakefield. Yes, it's in the classroom, but it's like for some students who we couldn't afford to get a train down to London and then buy the tickets. And we've also used Treasure Island as well, which is the one we've just done before half term. And we have quite big uptake actually, like students really enjoy it. And what's really lovely is they're seeing this big budget theatre. So like in Treasure Island, when the revolve moves and the boat appears, like the gasps that the students get, because they're just like, oh wow, it's and they're really, really drawn in by it, and they're seeing just a complete what a real big budget performance can look like, and what the theatre can look like.
And what the National Theatre did last academic year, which was fabulous, was they streamed Romeo and Juliet and looked at it from the COVID perspective. So students were able to see that theatre can be made and still be made in the situation that we're in, and highlighting the importance of lots and lots of different jobs within the arts as well, which has been, that went down really, really well.
So, and what we thought would be useful is because we know that time is a massive factor for all of us. So we've just put together a couple of links that we use and companies that we do use, and we just thought that we could share that with you so that you could connect and just I'll just get you probably know a lot of these, so please apologize if you're like, oh, I know all this, but number one, contact the learning department at the National Theatre. The people who work there are just wonderful, and we like we say, we're very lucky as to what we've done with them, but they do things like connections or new views and things that can really a lot of things for young people. And the National Theatre, every Tuesday on Instagram, they do production talks. So they go live, and they're talking about previous productions that have been on at the National, like interviewing the casts, interviewing people. And again, it's a really good insight into how theatre works. And there's an archive link for the ones that they've done given to you. We've given the National Theatre Drama Online link, but also if you haven't signed up, I've just put the link on as well, where you would sign up for it. The Old Vic, their education hub is fantastic. The Old Vic do stream matinee performances for schools as well, and I know our school watched Christmas Carol last year as in English as a bit of a reward. And I know that recently they've just I forgot which one it is, one of the Dr. Seuss ones, so there's a streamed plays again from the Old Vic, but in the Education Hub there's sections in there about how to write CVs, again lots of other like backstage information, but I just love the fact that they're helping young people write performance CVs and things like that. The Royal Shakespeare Company, they have a big thing with schools, and they broadcast some of their shows, and there's one in April this year. We've just missed one this week. I think some of you might have watched that one, but we've signed up for Michael Morpego's Tales of Shakespeare, and that's completely free. So I've just ordered 100 tickets for our students to watch that. And what's quite nice about that is that if you can't watch it in lesson, the students get an actual individual link for each one of those, so they could watch it at home. I really love the RSC ones, and they do a lot of CPD for teachers as well. We've attended some of those workshops, and they've been fantastic. Frantic Assembly, again, this is the Frantic digital link, so you can have a look and see how you can embed that into your curriculum. If you are teaching physical theatre, Frantic's really quite accessible, and it's all the skills that we all teach and we all know, but just kind of told through the practitioners. Lung, who are wonderful, and if Lung are on tour and anywhere near you, they quite often offer free tickets for schools to go and see the performance and have after show talks. So just keep an eye out on where their tour dates are. I know they've just finished one, but they're really good at working with schools. Company 3, again, young people, the work that they're doing, and if you have got £100 in your budget, sign up and do their when this is over, and have your students make their own play about their hopes and feelings for the future. And I've just put another one on the bottom because these are kind of one of my favourite ones. So they're called Coney, and they do a lot of play and games and devising through games and a lot of immersive interactive theatre. But some of the things, Coney offer free resources, but then they do ask for like a pay what you can, like, so small donation. But a lot of I've got a couple of their devising games, and they're really good at letting students kind of devise accidentally and have these start discussions and start different talk. I'll stop talking.
Yeah, so I think our sort of overall intention for this sort of session is just these are the useful links that with resources that you can utilise to put into your curriculum. But step one, just make sure that you make contact with your local theatre and the learning and engagement team, because it has really made a difference with our young people and with us in terms of our own professional development. So that's
and link with Open Drama, because the people who run that are amazing people. I don't know how long.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And you can breathe. Superb. Really, really good. And we met through the National Theatre, so therefore it shows that it works. It's a live, living thing, and Open Drama as well, which is ace. And you wouldn't find two more passionate teachers than these two. So that's really, really lovely to hear. Loads of good ideas for us to use. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time and for organising this. It's wonderful.
Okay, some really good ideas to go through there, but I'm just going to check that Sabrina is ready from Teachers Love Stationery.
Hi.
Excellent. I'll pass straight over to you, Sabrina. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. My name's Sabrina Thompson, and I'm the co-founder and co-owner of Teachers Love Stationery Club. So just to give you a bit of background, we are a stationery subscription box company. We do monthly, bi-monthly or quarterly boxes. So depending on how much you use stationery, you might want to subscribe subscribe to one of those packages. And we came up with the idea because we actually have our own subscription boxes, which we really enjoy opening once a month. So one is like snacks that I get, and the other is a gin box that we share. And I really love stationery. I thought it'd be great if there was something that was there for teachers, and you know, stuff that I could use in the classroom or use personally. And when I looked out there, the stationery boxes available, they were a bit sort of a bit too nice to use in the classroom, or a bit too high end, and paying quite a lot for not maybe as much stuff. So we came up with the idea of making our own subscription boxes based on what we believe teachers use in the classroom, what I use in the classroom. So I'm going to do an unboxing of one of our little boxes today. So this is the size of the box that we send out. It's approximately A4, but it's only 2 centimeters thick. So if you're out, which obviously you're going to be because you're at school, when the postman comes, you're not going to get one of those annoying "sorry we missed you" cards. This is going to be there waiting for you when you get home from school. So this is our December box, and we'll always wrap them up in a nice bit of tissue paper to try and keep everything steady. I'm going to move my camera now so you can see what's inside. So when you first subscribe, you'll get a welcome gift of a personalised pencil case, and if you subscribe today using the code DRAMA2, you'll get £2 off your first box. Plus, we'll do this special pencil case with your tragedy and comedy mask on there. The theme for this box, we have a monthly theme every time we send our boxes out, and this one was cosmic constellations. So we've got this lovely notebook that we've designed with night sky sort of blue coloured pages, and to go with that notebook we have these lovely set of 3 pens. We've got one white, one gold and one silver, so that you can write on the dark blue pages. We also have a little packet of post-it notes in the cosmic constellation theme, and again they are black blue coloured, but you can write on those with the pens provided. We also did some reward postcards this month. So for your pupils, we've got "What a Superstar" and "You're Out of This World," and there were 6 of those. Also, this month we had 4 sheets of reward stickers. We've got inspirational teamwork, beautiful work, amazing effort, and "You're a Superstar." And as a little extra treat, we put in this solar system bracelet. So sorry, I'm a secondary science teacher, so I'm a bit of a space geek. And you've got all of the planets represented by different coloured beads there, and packed in a little usable organza bag. We do have any reward individual stickers that month, sorry, but quite often we do include things like washi tape, stickers and post-it notes, which I tend to go through really fast in the classroom. So as I mentioned, it's monthly, bi-monthly or quarterly. If you use the code on screen, DRAMA2, you'll get £2 off your first box, and you'll get the personalised pencil case. Also check out our website, because we do have some of our stationery advent calendar boxes left. They are selling very quick, but they're just £35, and it's a really nice big sizable box with lots of stationery treats worth at least a recommended retail price of about £80 to £90. So yeah, do check our website out for our advent calendars. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Sabrina. That's really, really great. I love the idea of the advent calendar.
Yeah, we've been packing a lot of those recently. It's been quite hard work, but it's really exciting seeing everyone, they're arriving at people's houses and posting on social media, and they're decorating the outside of their boxes and stuff. So it's quite fun to see. I'm a bit, I'd love Christmas, so I'm a bit excited.
Thanks very much indeed.
Lovely. Cheers then.
And don't forget, you can win some drama stickers for the Selfie Competition on Twitter, hashtag TM Drama Icons. There's been some going up quite recently, so please do that, and you can win some lovely stickers that have just been shown there. Just to quickly recap on some of the things that Sarah and Beth were saying before, because I didn't quite have time. Amazing opportunities to work with outside agencies, and I just really love the idea of bringing that into your curriculum. There's a lot of talk currently about the relevance of curriculum and sequencing, and you know, the why of your curriculum. There's some really good inspirational ideas. You know, I don't think you can look at that curriculum and say that it's not relevant, and everything being tailored around a company. It's just a really clever idea. So again, I know that I'm in a position at the minute where I'm going to be setting targets for the department and areas of part of my curriculum that I'm going to develop. So I'll definitely be taking some of those ideas on board. And also just that quote of acting and drama doesn't have to be made by adults. I feel like I want to just get that put on a t-shirt and a mug and brand it around the place. A couple of other things that I just wrote down on that, just the big thing at the moment about cultural capital, those streaming and getting those, you know, theatre companies in whatever way that we can, and the generosity of some of those theatre companies, I can vouch for as well, in terms of, you know, they really do want to get students engaged. They're aware of the difficulties that, you know, young people and teachers and obviously the theatre itself has been in the last 2 years. So, you know, reach out to them, connect to those people on social media, and you'll be amazed what you can get in. And just the experience with those students, particularly those students who maybe have never experienced the theatre or don't get the chance, is massively inspirational. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all hoping to achieve and hoping to get from it. So there's some really lovely ideas, to really passionate teachers there as well, which is always great to hear. Lovely. I'm just going to double check if Georgina is ready or not, and just while we're waiting for that, just to remind you that the 12th of March again, we're hoping to have a live event in Manchester. There'll be more information to follow up on that. But if you are interested in doing what some people have done today and sharing some of your ideas of your practice, whether it be, you know, anything from curriculum to extracurricular, or, you know, tips and tricks of the classroom, engaging certain groups of students, any great ideas that you're using in People Premium, you know, the best way that we can all learn and move forward and be inspired by each other if we are willing to share. So please message on at TM Drama Icons on Twitter. If you are interested in sharing any of your practice with us, please don't feel intimidated by that. You know, it is just, we're all just teachers. None of us are, you know, experts in presenting or anything. We just all have a passion for sharing our ideas, making our lives a little bit easier, and you know, that's got to be a good thing in the current climate. Just to quickly recap on some of the things that we had so far, just in case you wanted to engage with them on Twitter or you've missed anything so far. So we've had Brett, who was talking about that amazing pupil progress app. Definitely something that I'm going to look at, as my school is a Pixel school, and that sort of passed me by a little bit. So I'm definitely going to be looking at that on Monday. We had Lucy and Eva talking about sound design with some really fantastic ideas of how you can bring that idea about having sound at the very beginning of the process was something I picked up from them, particularly when my groups are devising. It always seems that add-on thing like lighting at the end that they don't really think about. So that's something that I'm going to be taking into my year 10 groups as they start their devising in January and February. Remember that the Teachers Love Stationery, one of our sponsors for today, as well as People Progress, and some of their guys. So check out their website, some lovely gifts and things that maybe you could use for your form or for different teachers or just people that you want to share the love with. And also Sarah and Beth and their great work that they're doing currently in their curriculum and outside agencies. And again, links to things, follow them up on Twitter and find out things, ask them questions, and just, you know, use this platform for what it's meant for, which is really bringing us all together and helping us be inspired, and also hopefully cutting down, you know, some of the workload that maybe we've got by just, you know, working with other people's ideas. So we're going to be moving over to Georgina. Hi, Georgina.
Hi.
You got everything you need?
Hopefully. Yeah, I just need to check that my at the moment I'm just trying to share my PowerPoint, which hasn't come up yet. Okay. So perhaps now I'm in the room, I'll just try that again to see if it will come up.
Okay, no problem.
I'm guessing that nothing's come up yet because it's not showing on mine.
I can't see anything yet, no, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm afraid not. I don't know if there's any way.
Georgie, hiya. If you just just share screen, then I will be able to limit put your presentation in this end for everyone to see it. But you just need to share screen like you would normally on your computer.
So if I share screen and I'm
like
putting on window and PowerPoint.
Yeah, you need to just share your screen, and then it will come up my end, and I can share it then with everybody what you're seeing. So it'll just mimic whatever's on your. You won't be able to see yourself, but whatever's on your screen, well, then I will broadcast to everybody else. But you just need to share your screen.
So I'm pressing on share screen.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want me to press on entire screen or window?
Yeah, entire screen, I think it is. And then it should come up my end. It's not coming up yet. Everybody else's has just come up straight away, and I'll just click on it. If entire screen doesn't work, then come out and you'll have to try share window, but it should just come up straight away.
So I've shared this. I'm sharing the screen, and even if I'm putting an entire screen and share, nothing's happening at the moment. I'm afraid I've done it several times.
I don't really know what to say, I'm afraid. Have you tried the other one? Try the window one.
Yeah, so I've tried the window. I'm just doing it again. I've tried entire screen. I've tried the window. Do you want me to try the window StreamYard? I've tried PowerPoint. It's just coming up. Well, it's just showing blank at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, try it. I don't really know why it's not working. Sorry about this. It should just, as soon as you share your screen, whatever's on, I can just see your face at the moment. Whenever once you share whatever you're sharing, it will automatically come through StreamYard, you see, and I'll just click it. But there's nothing coming up to tell me that you've shared your screen, so I can't click on yours.
Is there any way of just showing the PowerPoint that I've emailed you? Are you able to pull that up that way instead?
Yeah, I could try. Rob, I might have to just go to you, mate, just to hold the fort while I do that.
That's no problem.
I'm going to take Georgina out for a minute and just hold the fort. Okay.
No problem. Okay, so a good chance to maybe just remind you of our sponsors today, which are Wellbe, Pupil Progress, and Teachers Love Stationery. It's amazing that they can support us to offer this free CPD, so thank you to all of those in advance. Some of the things that I was thinking about before, based on previous talk, was about the use of external companies, because a lot of what we focused on was looking at theatre companies, but some of the things that I found really, really useful, particularly as in the last couple of years I've took my school through Gold Arts Mark Award, was the idea of using companies that aren't theatre companies. So we made links with our local NHS, we've made links with local an old people's home, and different businesses around and the amount that they have been willing to get theatre companies and students performing to either raise awareness of certain issues. So we did a project recently with the Countess of Chester, which was about educating primary schools with the jobs that are in the NHS, because they often think they're doctors and nurses. So it's worth looking out in your local community at different businesses and places like that and seeing if they are willing and wanting you to come in, which gives those pupils in the extracurricular a chance to feel like they're working for a company, they're working for as a job, they're being given a specific sort of remit for creating theatre. So it's worth just getting yourself out there and seeing if those things are really useful. So as well as connecting with theatre companies, any other agencies with that as well, just in terms of branching out, and again in terms of community support, reaching out to your local community, all good stuff when it comes to SLT and Ofsted. Seb, are we any closer?
Yeah, we're nearly there, mate. Just give us 1 sec. We're nearly there.
Perfect opportunity while we've got a little bit of to make sure that you're doing a selfie competition. So all of the hosts, all the people watching, opportunity now. Very quickly take a selfie of you watching the screen, and then posting that up to make sure you're in with a shout of winning those drama stickers from our sponsors, We Love Stationery. So you can do that now. It'll take you 10 seconds. I've already put my ugly mug on there. So please, if you could do that, that'd be really helpful. Thank you, Seth.
Right, we'll give it another go. All right, Rob. Okay, Georgina, I'm going to try and do it this way then. You'll have to just talk through. I'm not sure how this is going to work.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I've just set up Google Chrome and I think there's something wrong with the settings on here that it's not able to show me, that it won't allow me to share anything.
I don't know if this is even going to work. I'm struggling, to be fair, myself. Right, I'm trying to share my screen. I've got your presentation, but I don't know how to get my mine up now. It's on there now. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Right, brilliant. Okay, so we're sorted.
You just
go. I can't actually see you now, so I'm just going to have to presume that you're doing everything lovely.
Okay.
And just tell me when you want to move it on. Yeah, off you go.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to talk today about the Year 7 and 8 drama curriculum, and I'm going to be looking at the why for my Year 7 and 8 drama curriculum, so my intentions, and also the how I actually implement the curriculum. I think, teaching Year 7 and 8, it's a big challenge because you've got the whole of the school, you've got a whole variety of students with all different backgrounds, all different experiences, all different feelings about whether they feel they should be doing drama or not, or what they're getting from drama. So I think it's a really sort of important one to look at. So today I'm going to look a bit at how I sequence across Year 7 and 8, how I sequence within a scheme of work, and how I sequence within a lesson. And I'm going to touch a little bit on pedagogy of teaching to think about how we embed teaching within, potentially that 1 hour a week that we have with our students. So if we go on to the next slide, please. So I'm hoping I'm not the only person that's ever heard these sorts of comments before, sadly, from some of our younger students who might be saying, what's the point? Why are we here? Why are we doing it? I don't want to be an actor, or I've got anxiety, or I'm all these sorts of things that come up in the drama studio, perhaps when we start teaching drama. So I'm going to look a little bit at what things I've done that I feel have made an impact on students and have really helped to get them engaged and working well in drama. So if we go on to the next slide. So one of the things I start off with my students is this quote that you might recognise from a Harry Potter film. And I just start to unpick the reasons why it's really important that we believe in ourselves. How can we progress in life? How can we achieve unless we have that sort of core self-belief? And then I start to build in perhaps how we can develop that self-belief through drama. If we go on to the next slide, please. So we've got a couple of images here. So I have lots of images around the drama studio as well to kind of back up getting students to think about why we're doing drama. So this is just a couple of my favourite ones. I can't claim that I created them myself, but I just think they're really useful. So if we go into the next slide, please. So now I'm going to look a little bit more at the why. So I first of all start with breaking down the key skills that we work on in drama. So I'm just going to go through a list of skills. I mean, you may have slightly different ones, but I think we're probably all going to be fairly similar. So I particularly focus on dramatic techniques, theatrical styles, characterization, vocal skills, devising, interpreting and performing scripts, set and staging, audience and spatial awareness, evaluating the effectiveness of performances. So I go through with students right at the beginning why we're doing drama. So these are the core skills that we're going to be working on. So we're going to develop these skills, we're going to become knowledgeable, we're going to be assessed on these particular skills. But I think particularly at Key Stage 3 drama, there needs to be more than just we're learning drama as a separate subject. Actually, how are these skills going to benefit our students? Some of them may not go on, probably quite a lot of them won't go on to do school productions or won't go on to do GCSE drama, but we need to see that there is a value in doing this. So then I say we're using these skills to develop these things, which are our core transferable skills. So if we go into the next slide, please. So then I talk about so we're doing these things and this is what we're going to achieve. So actually my core transferable skills, and I mean, there's so many skills that we could look at potentially. So I talk about confidence and self-belief and self-esteem, perseverance and resilience. Sorry, I just need to click on the slides again. Sorry for them to come up. Group work. Obviously, we do lots of group work, really important to look at how we compromise, how we cooperate. Independent learning in the sense that once we get more confident at working within a group, we can go off into our groups and keep motivated without a constant teacher presence within the small groups. Being creative, being imaginative, being able to present yourself, public speaking, being able to improvise on the spot, not just in drama, but in life. We have to do a lot and think quickly and think outside of the box. Learning lines. There are quite a few studies that show that learning lines can really help with memory and improving memory. Rehearsing, self-discipline, self-reflection, evaluative thinking, empathy, and communicative skills. So obviously we need those communication skills, I think, more than ever now that we've had, quite a few unusual periods of time of having to work in a different way. We still need to keep hold of how do we communicate. And I do talk a bit about empathy, how we treat each other. Can we be empathic in group work? So I think there's all a huge amount of important skills going on there. And I do start off as well by saying to students, this is a shared experience. We're all in it together. It only takes one person to not to not be joining in and to have that kind of ripple effect, that domino effect across the class. So I think it's really important to start off with building up that sense that we're all in it together. This is an important shared experience. And even if we feel silly, if we all feel silly together, then it's okay. And I do talk about, we can just see a little bit at the top there where I talk about, being forward thinking with our ideas. It's really important to be curious, to learn new skills. Social responsibility, I pick up on a lot with year 7 and 8, looking at are we being socially responsible with how we treat each other in group work, how we give feedback to each other as well, and being resilient. When we are feeling anxious, scared, nervous, having problems, we've got to build up that resilience, how we work with other people and how we do that performance on the day as well. So once we've established this is sort of why this is the intention of the curriculum, then, when we've established that with our students, then if I go on to the actual planning, so how do we implement this? What curriculum can we have? So first of all, I think it's important to consider a few things before I show you what my current planning grid is for year 7 and 8. So I think you need to consider what school you're at. So I've been teaching now for about 15 years. So I have taught in a variety of schools, from sort of independent, state, grammar, mixed and single sex schools. So I'm currently in a large comprehensive school with quite large in terms of, quite large classes, sort of mixed gender, mixed ability classes. So that's the kind of planning I'll show you at the moment. But I think it's really important to consider, who are you catering for? What studio space and resources have you got to make sure you're utilizing those resources? Definitely. Obviously look at what you're doing higher up in the school. How are you going to filter that down if you've got certain practitioners, certain key text? How can you filter that down through your younger students so they're already starting to learn it from the beginning? And of course, think about whenever your important data drops and reports and things are, what are the important schemes of work that you want to have in place so that you get those assessment marks ahead of that time, I think is always important when you're looking at your overall planning. And think about any external events that are going to affect your planning as well. If you're going to be chucked out of the studio because of exams that are going on, make sure you've got a scheme of work in place at that time of year so that you can go into a classroom and do some live performance analysis with a recording or something like that. Or if you're going to be doing the production and you're going to be absolutely flat out, what scheme of work can you put in place that's going to make it work for your kind of balance there as well? So I'm going to show you next the my overall planning grid. So although I have lots of schemes of work that I've developed over the years, I think it's really important that each year I do have a little bit of a shake up as well. I think for your own sanity, don't keep teaching the same schemes of work over and over and over again, because you will get bored of them and they become a little bit too routine. I think it's important to kind of take inspiration from other things that are going on and look at how you can shake them up a bit. So what I look at, what I'm currently teaching in my school, if we sort of work on the planning grid, so we can look at that kind of horizontal and vertical, how are we progressing across the year, and then how does that progression go from year 7 into year 8. So I have obviously said that about those key skills and how they're coming across in different ways. And I also mentioned about the balance between devised and scripted. So I personally think it's important to have like a 50-50 split. So mine is very, very much 50-50. Most of the time I contrast schemes of work, and then you'll see there's a moment when I build on a particular skill. So I start year 7, and I will go into the next slide in a minute where I talk a little bit more about why I've chosen these particular topics in this particular sequence. But I start with the age-old, lots of people will know this scheme of work of Darkwood Manor that started many years ago. I don't know who was the original creator, but I think we all have our own adaptations of how we like to play with Darkwood Manor, and it's a great one to start off, but I'll talk about that in a minute in a bit more detail. So that's a devised piece. So if you just click on the link, it will just pop up with showing which are devised and which are scripted. So I start off with devised work, then I moved on to some script work, looking at the Tempest, and that's a link to the English department. Then I move on to devising again. Then I look a little bit at live performance, although it's a recorded live performance. I look at live performance analysis, but also link it with devising. Then I go into Stanislavski with script work. Then we go into devising, although we look at Greek theatre, I look at some more modern devising work. Then in year 8, melodrama, script work and mime. Then we go into Macbeth with script work, then some physical theatre devising, then some live performance analysis again with some script work this time, and then devising. So we can see there's kind of a 50-50 split there, although there's one point where I do 2 lots of devising in a physical theatre style in 2 very contrasting ways though. So I kind of build on those skills. So if we go on to the next slide, I'll just look a little bit now at why I've got this sequence for year 7. So
no more slides, I'm afraid.
So if we just talk a little bit about the year 7 curriculum. So I start with Darkwood Manor, as I said. So Darkwood Manor, I've chosen that one because for me, it's all about breaking down the inhibitions. So to take the pupils really out of their comfort zones. It's very, very highly stylized. So we're doing kind of teacher in role and slow motion and soundscapes. And then we move on to like actors becoming objects and even things like creating our own ghost busting machines. So that we've, so as you can see, it's come up there with Darkwood Manor. So it's, I also want to make pupils forget about what they think drama is and build them up in a much more creative way. Then in the second term, I go on to go on to the Tempest. And the reason I've chosen the Tempest is actually it's a cross-curricular link to the English department. So I do a Shakespeare unit at the same time each year because it's ahead of them studying it in English. But we can do a bit of theatre history in there, also look at modern interpretations. There's a fantastic production of the RSCs of the Tempest that I particularly focus on, where you get to see like a floating avatar of Ariel, which is fantastic. But I also build in staging, special effects, and lots of technical elements, the working areas of the stage. So I'm building up the drama terminology at that point. Then I move into teaching some very, very specific dramatic techniques. So cross-cutting, conscience alley, flashback, slow motion, thought tracking, soundscapes. So each lesson is focused on one technique, really understanding that technique, and then it culminates in some devised pieces using all of these techniques for effect. Then moving on to Chicken, so Mark Wheeler play. So if you do look at Mark Wheeler, for example, looking at Hard to Swallow, then Mark Wheeler, if you don't know, has some really good plays for younger students. So Chicken is a theatre and education piece. So then you can really look at the style of TIE. He does sell the live recording of it, so you can actually show the students, the actors acting out in front. They're actually doing it in front of year 6s. So it's completely appropriate material to look at with year 7. And you can really look at the style of Mark Wheeler. You can look at the fact it's a TIE piece, and then actually move on to them devising a scene in the style of TIE of something that they think they would like to share with younger students. Then I move on to Stanislavski, so something very different, very contrasting, and I look at some very specific techniques of like the given circumstances, character profiles, units and objectives, and so on. And I just they work in pairs, and each pupil they have a duologue scene, and they apply the techniques each week to the same duologue scene and culminates in a performance. And then I finish off with, now I like to try and have something that's quite fun and lighthearted, because I find people start to drop off in the summer term with that kind of focus and energy. So I find pupils really love looking at some Greek theatre and some chorus, and they're fascinated by amphitheatres. But then I finish off with doing some practical in a very physical theatre style. So you'll see in year 8, we do quite a lot of physical theatre. So I'm starting to really build up, looking at how we can work in a really synchronized way with synchronized speech and movement and so on. Then if we move into year 8, so I start off the year with the Victorian Melodrama, and the reason for this is really to get pupils back into drama. I want to do something exaggerated and wacky and stylized, but it also has a quite strict rules to how you perform in that style. So it's quite a good one to be able to really build up a very specific way of acting. And it's really to push people out of their comfort zone as well, get them to do something really exaggerated, very different to what they would normally do in life. And then I go on to looking at Macbeth. So again, this is a link to the English department, but I do a little bit of theatre history, a little bit of then looking at modern interpretations. The great thing about Macbeth is there's about 1 million productions out there. So you can always see a production, and you can, there's lots of clips that you can show of all different interpretations as well. And so you can play around a lot with creativity. And then looking at physical theatre. So I've just been doing at the end of last year some online training with Frantic Assembly. So I'm planning on adding in some new sort of techniques into what I usually teach in there. So really just, looking at all those sort of stylized techniques, and then continuing that sort of physical theatre in a slightly different way with trestle masks. So now looking obviously at exaggerated comedy, mime to music. So we've done mime to music at the beginning of the year with melodrama. So now we can do it in a slightly different way and really hone our skills. And then I go on to another Mark Wheeler production of Butcher, Butcher Burning Bright. So if you haven't ever come across this one before, I think it works really well with year 8s because it's a very dramatic storyline of teenagers around the same age as the students that you're teaching, and a girl gets killed in a fire in a school, and it also looks at kind of early teenage relationships and things like that, and very highly stylized. Again, I've got the recorded production, so we can look at the production and we can act out scenes from it as well. And then I finish year 8 because, again, I said to not allow the students to sort of drop off, to keep them a bit more engaged and excited. I look at soap operas and the style and history of soap operas. And then what I do is, because the school is on a road called Wood Close, so then we create a soap opera called Wood Close. And I have like a vocal recording that I got my husband to do of pretending to be a police officer saying that there's been a murder, and go through the details of that. And then the students have to create these scenes in the style of a soap opera about what might have happened. So that's kind of the curriculum in a nutshell there. I'm just going to move on to talking a little bit about keeping students then engaged and embedding the learning. I think is a really hard bit when we've got classes over 30 pupils for 1 hour a week, and we've got lots of material to get through. How do we make sure that they are actually understanding, learning, remembering in that short amount of time? And something I've been really experimenting with is all the different ways that I retrieve in lessons to be able to do that quick but effective retrieval for all students. So I think it's really important to take a moment to look at our sort of pedagogy. So this is really taken from, you probably all know this from Rosenshine's principles, but really looking at how we break down and explain and teach in those small steps, how we constantly model, which is great in drama because we can model things, we can get pupils to model things, we can show things, we can go and see live performances, which is great. Doing that scaffolded guided practice leading to the independent practice, and doing that constant questioning, watching rehearsals, watching performances to check for understanding, and then just keep going with that retrieval, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. I do always begin the very first lesson with drama games to really build up that culture as well of trust. And I do think it's worth thinking about, have you got extracurricular running in your year 7 and 8? Because it really does help to promote the subject and the engagement in the subject. So I've got a year 7 and 8 theatre company that meet once a week and work on things. And I also have performing arts reps across different age groups that get together and have a say in helping to run the extracurricular programs as well. So getting the year 7s and 8s really engaged there. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit then to do with the scheme of work and then a particular lesson in that scheme. So I said that I did in Victorian Melodrama. So this is just a really, really brief breakdown of what are the key things that I look at across that scheme of work. So I begin the very first lesson really not even looking at the style straight away, just looking at how we exaggerate on a scale of 1 to 10 and looking at sort of mime and exaggeration, building in those skills. And then I start to introduce 5 key characters that I will keep revisiting throughout the whole scheme. And we'll just focus on those 5 characters. And I will use visual aids as well all the time. I always like to have PowerPoints, always like to have visuals on the board to back up everything that we're doing. And I have one key picture for each character. So every time I bring up that picture, students know this is how we stand, this is how we move, this is how we talk, and so on as that character. When I move on to the second week, we build in the voice and the lines of the characters, and then we build in a short little scripted performance. By the third week, we're able to improvise and be a bit more creative around some typical storylines, still using that exaggeration, still using our stock characters, using our gestures, using our direct address to the audience and things like that. Then by the fourth week, we're using some more complex scripts, and we can apply all of that to those scripts. By the fifth week, we're now being able to use those scripts and create a mime to music at the end that continues the scene. And by the sixth week, we're able to perform it and evaluate it using our sort of creating, performing and evaluating for our assessment. So I'm just now going to talk about a one particular lesson, which is the second lesson. So in the second lesson, we've learned a bit about the style of melodrama. We've learned about how to exaggerate. We've learned about the 5 stock characters. We've particularly worked on physicality. So now we're going to add in some of the voice, some of the gestures, and building up to a short performance. So if we I'm just sort of breaking it down in terms of our pedagogy of what we're doing within a lesson. So I start the lesson straight away with retrieval. I think it's important to make the most of every second of that lesson. So as the students are walking in, they're taking their shoes off, they're putting their bags to the side. I've already got a video playing. It's an old black and white movie in the style of melodrama. They come and they sit down in a circle in register order at the start. And they're already watching, they're already retrieving, thinking about the style of melodrama. Then we will go on to just straight away acting out our scale of 1 to 10 again. We'll go to doing our 5 stock characters, looking at posture and so on. So we're just retrieving all of that information. Then we go on to the new material. So now we're going through some key lines that are on the board, and I'm acting them out as certain stock characters. They're acting them out, and we're unpicking who could be saying it and why, and we're adding in our gestures. Then we'll move on to a really complex line with lots of gestures and direct address, and look at how we do that. And the class will do it facing each other, because it's a big declaration of love, so they can declare their love to each other. And then I'll give them a short scene to move on to our deliberate practice with just 3 characters. But further to that, I'll choose a group to perform, and then I'll redirect them in front of the class. So we're absolutely crystal clear on the style. And then each of the groups will get to have a go at it, so that I can see that everyone's really understanding the style before we move on to the third lesson. So I'm just going to move on to a little bit to do with retrieval. I mentioned how much I've been trying to sort of play around with that recently and really improve how the students really embed that learning and move it into their long-term memory. So I've got in the corner, several little ways of being able to do quick retrieval that I've been playing around with. This really comes from Sherrington's teaching walkthroughs. I find those incredibly useful and quite quick and easy to look at the different ideas and how you can use them in your lessons. I've decided to show today knowledge organisers as a good way of being able to embed that long-term learning. So I like to particularly use a lot of visuals. So this is one to do with staging, as you can see. So I just have all of the key terms and images to represent those key terms to help students to be able to remember that. So whatever scheme of work we're doing, we can just revisit that when we need to. And I've just got one more example on there, which was to do with Stanislavski. This was to do with monologues, because students were obviously in lockdown last year when I was teaching that. So they were working on monologues and just, again, the keywords and the visuals there to help students to remember. And then, I do lots of quizzing. So they've looked at their knowledge organiser, then I can quiz them on it to check that we remember, that we understand, and we can apply it to our work. So I've just going to sort of sum up and talk and say what main resources I find useful. So to sum up what I've said today is, to start with considering your parameters, decide on your intentions. What are your key skills and what are your core transferable skills? Consider that balance that you have between scripted and devised, between your genres that you want to explore and your historical and contemporary work. Look at your implementation. So how are you going to do it? How are you going to sequence from the beginning of year 7 through to the end of year 8? What's going to be your variety of skills you want to build up? And then within those schemes of work, so look at how you're going to embed those retrieval activities, your teaching in small steps, your modelling, your checking for understanding through questioning, and your performance work, and how you keep making those links to the previous skills learned. So whether it's, knowledge organisers that you're revisiting, and so on. And then lastly, I've just popped on there some things that I find useful. So if you're doing your like why drama matters, you can show the clip there of the Drama Matters campaign, and there's some good useful teaching resources in there, live performances on National Theatre, and for drama games at the beginning of the year, I love David Farmer's drama games, are always brilliant as well, and the teaching walkthroughs just really help with the pedagogy. So that's everything from me today. So yeah, I don't know if there's any...
Just bear with us. I just want to get out of this whole screen mode. Stop sharing. Right, where have you gone? I don't want to lose you. No, that was absolutely brilliant, Georgina. Really, really good. I'm sorry about that technical issue. I don't know what was going on there, but I was very aware that I was also on screen throughout the whole thing. I didn't know how to get myself away, but that was absolutely awesome. That was such a blend of drama teaching and all the stuff I've done for years and years with all the modern pedagogy, you know, combined together. Absolutely on the money. To anyone who's, you know, teaching Key Stage 3, that will be a godsend. Absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much. Well, obviously we'll upload all that resources for the people who've missed it, and they can download it afterwards. Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Excellent. Thank you. That was superb. There's going to be so many teachers around the country at the minute who are currently thinking about their curriculum, and to have that all sort of in one place, particularly, you know, when you look around and you hear lots about retrieval practice, walkthroughs, you're hearing about, you know, relevant curriculum, you're hearing about, you know, the strategy of your curriculum and the stages and where you need to be when. So to have that the sort of working example, I think is going to help a huge amount of people if they're starting to do that. So that was ace. We're going to move quickly over to one of our sponsors for the day, Wellbe. Who's going to tell us a little bit about some of the things that they're doing. If you're ready, Seb.
Third of new teachers leave within 5 years. School recruitment targets missed since 2012. UK teacher job satisfaction among the lowest globally, and stress and mental ill health is the #1 cause of long-term absence. And all this was before the impact, uncertainty, anxiety and added workload from COVID-19. There is a solution that will help you solve these problems and effectively tackle the causes of poor staff well-being. Introducing Wellbe. Wellbe follows an evidence-built process, which means you can easily assess the current well-being of your staff, know what to focus on for the biggest impact, track progress and capture ongoing staff feedback. As a result, your school will keep more of its staff who are happier and more engaged, improve student outcomes, and likely save £20,000 to over £100,000 annually. 12 months of Wellbe includes an online survey, detailed report with benchmarks and recommended actions, anonymous feedback tool, resources and ongoing remote support to simplify and speed up your journey and deliver the outcomes you need. All with a money-back guarantee. Schools we work with have found this transformational. To book your free demonstration or to find out more, get in touch today.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you as well for sponsoring this CPD. We're moving on to Carl Dunnington now, fellow open drama champion from beautiful part of the world in Dorset. And he's going to be talking about Year 9 curriculum. Are you okay, Carl?
Yeah, good morning, Rob. How you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. Over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. How do I share my screen, Rob?
I think if you just, there should be a share screen button there, and then it should, fingers crossed, just come up, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, brilliant. Can you see my PowerPoint okay?
Yeah, it's all good, Carl. That's great, mate.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here this morning and to talk a little bit about what I'm doing at my school. My name is Carl Dunnington. I'm the head of drama at Paul Grammar School for Boys. I teach Year 7 all the way to Year 13, and I teach GCSE AQA and A-level AQA. And I'm going to talk to you this morning about Year 9 and how to keep boys engaged with Year 9 drama, and also how to prepare students potentially for taking GCSE and potentially A-level drama in the future. So here's my Key Stage 3 plan. We've just heard from Georgina talking about her Year 7 and her Year 8 plan, and actually I was watching some of her presentations. Some of the projects that she does are very similar to what I do. So here's my Key Stage 3 plan for 7, 8 and 9. What I'm going to focus on this morning is the first 2 schemes of work that I talk about, I do with Year 9. So the first one is on Humpty Dumpty, the play, and Stanislavski, and then the second one is on device theatre and Bertolt Brecht. Later on this year, I will be doing some work with Frantic Assembly and physical theatre, and then we'll be looking at the Dumbwaiter by Harold Pinter and the practitioner Katie Mitchell, and then we end Year 9 with some fun improvisation. So the idea with this is to get 2 really solid schemes of work in with Year 9 before they do their GCSE 9 Year 9 options process, which at our school happens in around about February time. So we try to do 2 assessments there with them that give them a really good idea of whether GCSE drama is going to be a subject for them. So the first project is this play, The Terrible Fate of Humpty Dumpty by David Callcott, first performed in the 1980s. It's a fantastic play, and it really works well with classes of all boys. I teach classes of 30 roughly Year 9 boys. We are a grammar school, so they are very able boys, but not every single boy is engaged with drama, as you can imagine. So we try to find texts that really engage with them. And Humpty Dumpty is about a boy who is bullied into climbing a pylon and is then killed, and then the repercussions from that. And it also goes into Terry, the boy who's killed's backstory. And there's some really strong teenage male characters in the story, which we explore with this project. So this is the breakdown of the scheme of work that we do. So this is over 8 lessons that we do this, and I've been actually running this scheme of work this autumn term. So in each lesson, we look at different scenes from the play. We don't look at every scene from the play because we don't have time, but there are specific scenes that we do look at. And alongside that, we are doing Stanislavskian introduction and rehearsal techniques, approaches to drama. So the boys are learning about Stanislavski and naturalist theatre for the first time as well. So each lesson has a mixture of some theory and some working on the text, doing practical work on that, but also later on in the project, the boys do some writing of a monologue, which is an original piece of writing as well, using one of the characters. So I'm going to go through that in a little bit more detail now. So I have a presentation on Stanislavski, which I go through with the students. I set the idea up that I'm Stanislavski and they are all my actors, and that I'm going to be training them in my style of Stanislavski. And I mentioned Brecht briefly here, just because we will be talking about Brecht later on in the Year 9 curriculum. So I explain the context, the historical context of where Stanislavski comes, and I introduce the concept of naturalism. And then I talk a lot about what was happening before Stanislavski with Victorian melodrama, and how Stanislavski didn't think that that style of performance was successful. I then link in Stanislavski to the play Humpty Dumpty itself, and we talk about given circumstances. So we start to look at the play, we start to think, well, where's this play set? Who are the characters? What are their objectives? I talk about saying, well, the play is the key thing, not necessarily where the playwright is from or other things, but the facts, the given circumstances in the play, how important they are. So we start to talk about that. We start to look at the play, and then start to get the boys to really break down what's going on with the characters and how they're going to interpret playing the characters. So we talk about this what, how, why structure. What does the character do? How does the character do it? We start to link in their use of vocal and physical skills, and we talk of the concept of motivation. Why do the characters do that? And we talk a little then about Stanislavski, and we talk about the subconscious and the fact that sometimes we do things without thinking about it because we are motivated by something, and how that makes our performance naturalistic. And then we start to think about it. Where is there subtext within the dialogue that the character is speaking? So then I talk about dialogue. I talk about the concept of what we say isn't always what we mean. I then do an exercise where I get the students to say a very simple phrase, but say it in lots of different ways to give it different meaning. We then talk about how physicality can give a phrase, a sentence, a different meaning, and think about what the different subtext behind what they're saying. And we talk about the objective. So when we're working on scenes, we're often talking about, well, what's the character's objective in this scene? What's Terry trying to achieve here? What's Terry's father trying to achieve in this scene? So whenever we're working on scenes within the play, we are linking it to Stanislavski's approaches of units of action, characters' objectives. So this is really helpful for year 9s. It's their first time looking at it in this way. For them, if those year 9s go on and do GCSE or A level, and we're talking about Stanislavski again, they've had experience of it pre-GCSE or A level. And we talk about super objectives. So what does the character trying to achieve within the whole context of the play? And we talk specifically about the characters in the play and what they're trying to achieve. So once we've gone through a number of scenes in the play, I asked the boys to choose one of the key characters in the story and to create a monologue for that character, to write something original. So this monologue could be a diary entry, it could be them talking to a friend or family, it could be them just talking out loud to themselves and trying to deal with the difficult situations that come up in this story. They're Terry himself and the bullying that he's receiving in the play, how he's dealing with that, his friend Sammy, who does nothing to stop it. The bullies themselves, Stubbs, Jimmy and Pete, what's their motivation? Why do they bully him? Why do they treat him badly? And the boys really like looking into the backstories of these characters and trying to think, well, what's their psychology? Why are they behaving the way that they do in this story? And so the boys really enjoy being able to find their own voice within writing a monologue, linking it to one of the characters within the play. So what I do, first of all, before they write the monologue, is I ask the boys to do a characterization background. So they think about how old their character is, what personality they're going to play, what's their status within the play, to think about facts about their characters, to think about questions about those characters. Some of this is sort of linked in with Katie Mitchell as well, who talks a lot about facts and questions. I get them to think about what their super objective is in the play and what's their objective in the scene that they're performing, in the monologue that they're doing, what they're trying to achieve in that monologue. So they do a background characterization document on the character first of all, and then when they're ready, they start writing the monologue. I give them this structure here, this sort of template to write the monologue. I also try and encourage them to write stage directions in the monologue, to think about what they're doing in the within the monologue, what their emotions are, and to write them in as if they're writing their own stage directions as well. So when they're rehearsing it, they can think about the action, the movement that they're using as well, not just what they are saying. So, for example, I'm angry on this line, I'm crying on this line, I pick my diary up on this line, I sit down on a bench on this line, etc., etc. Here's an example that one of my students did this year, which you can have a look at. I'm currently assessing these at the moment, seeing our students coming up with some fantastic monologues, really convincing characters, really engaging with the sense of being believable within the character. And I think the boys really engage with some of the characters. And although the play was written in the 1980s, we talked to them about updating it to 2021, and the play can easily be updated with modern references and mobile phones and social media and things like that. It's not that difficult to do. So this is just a really good example of a monologue that one of my students has written this year, which I really like. And what we try and get the boys to do is do between about 1 minute and 2 minutes. So learning lines is obviously a really important thing for doing GCSE drama. So it's good for them to practice that. We do a lot of pair work where boys will help each other with the monologues. They'll swap them over. They'll give each other feedback. They'll make suggestions to each other about how they can improve. And then eventually we will assess the monologue, and they'll perform it to the whole class. So I've been seeing loads of these over the last 2 weeks. I do insist that lines must be learnt off heart for a really successful performance. Now you see on my mark scheme here, very, very simple mark scheme. I don't try not to make it too complex with too much detail. I use an A star to E system for Key Stage 3 marking, because I find that students can relate to that better. But what I do is I try and link that to the 9 to 1 as well. But I don't use 8 and 9 because I feel that they are not able in year 9 to sort of reach those 8 and 9 levels. So I suggest that if they got an A star for their performance, then that would equate to around about a level 7, because obviously we have a lot of written work at GCSE, which is not being assessed here. So what I tend to do is we watch the performance. We ask the student the context of their monologue, where it would fit within the play, and they perform their monologue, and then I ask the class to give feedback. And then I always ask the class to mark the monologue themselves. We do a hands up survey. Boys are only allowed to vote for 1 grade. I then will write down what the class gave the student, and then I myself will give feedback and give the student a grade. Now, sometimes I agree with the students and give a similar grade. Sometimes I don't. But I will always be interested to know what the students think and what their opinion is. And then I give the student a final grade, which we use for assessment reports and for parents' evenings and things like that, to feedback to parents how well their son is doing in drama. In general, we don't get many students that get down in the lower levels, the E's and the D's, but we do get a few. And if students do get an E or a D, I will always give them lots of feedback, and we always give them the opportunity to perform again. If they get an E or a D, so come back the next week, work on it for another week and try again. In my school, we have an hour of drama with year 9 every week. Okay, so that's my first scheme of work that I've talked about this morning. So after we've completed that, I will ask the students to do an evaluation of their monologue, and then we will move on to look at Bertolt Brecht and devised drama, which is obviously a very key part of doing a GCSE in drama. So here is the 10 lesson plan that I use for this. And in each lesson, we have something slightly different happening. If we're introducing a stimuli or we're rehearsing. And with the devising, I try to break it down so that each lesson they're working on different scenes, so they don't repeat themselves, so they build up a piece over a number of lessons and they can put it all together. And we try to make sure that they don't try and overstretch themselves by doing too much. So I give them a brief introduction to Bertolt Brecht, tell them the context of that, which then obviously gives them some historical, social, cultural, political context to who he was and what he did. And what epic theatre is. We talk very much about how it's about making you think, that it's not just about entertaining you. We talk about his influences, and then we talk about the distinction between the differences between naturalistic theatre and epic theatre. We talk about the V effect and the idea of distancing or alienating your audience, doing things that are strange and odd. And they start to talk about some of the things that you would see, the key features you would see within a non-naturalistic epic theatre Brechtian performance, such as actors swapping out of roles, speaking the stage direction, speaking in the third person. And we talk about set and staging and breaking the fourth wall, and the concept of using placards, slides. And we talk about Brecht's ideology, really, his political ideology, the art concept of wanting to change the world and creating theatre that makes people think, it engages people in a political sense. We talk about protest and creating plays that highlight social issues, etc., etc. And then I have a kind of key toolbox of things that I ask students to include in the drama pieces that they're going to create. And we keep this slide up quite often on the main projection board during lessons to say, are you using some of these key features within the piece that you're creating? So once I've introduced the concept of Brecht and the concept of Brechtian performance, I then introduce a number of different stimuli which the boys can use to start creating some pieces of drama. So here's some images, some of the stimuli that I use, and I'll be doing this project again this year and introducing these stimuli to them. So the first one I use is this one, which we call the Tripping Policeman, which is called The Cheeky People of the Canal. It's by Tom Franson, and I introduce it. And the boys really like this image. They like the sort of cheekiness of it, the what's the right way of putting it? The naughtiness of tripping up a policeman. And we talk about it looking like a comic strip almost. And then I give them a freeze frame task with this image to create a story with 5 freeze frames, with the third freeze frame being the reconstruction of the image itself. So they have to think about what happened before and what happened after. And this is in Brussels in Belgium, this particular sculpture. This was a stimulus that was on the OCR GCSE a few years ago. So some people who've taught OCR GCSE might recognize it. Yeah, then it means the cheeky people. It's entitled The Cheeky People of the Canal. And in another lesson, we will look at this artwork, and I'll explain to the boys that artwork is often used as a stimuli for creating drama. This is A Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali. There's a link here to a YouTube video. It's not very long. It's just a really good documentary which talks a lot about the artwork. And I pose the boys a question with this one. Does the mountain watches, mountain clocks, what do they represent to the viewer? Is this a pleasant daydream or a horrible nightmare? And we have a class discussion about that. And then I asked the boys to create a advert for a product suggested by this painting. So a little short devised piece here to get them investigating and engaging with the stimuli and thinking about using Brechtian performance within that. And then our next lesson we'll look at the moon landings in 1969, because often with my students, boys in my school like to use historical events as stimuli for GCSE A-level devised pieces. So we talk about the moon landings. I show them a video about the moon landings. I show them this image. And we talk about arguments of space travel. Is it vital, or is it a waste of money? And then the boys will engage in that conversation. And then I get them to do a script writing task here, where they have to write a short script inspired by the moon landings and reflecting on the arguments for and against. And I suggest that this could be an opening scene for a longer piece of theatre. And again, I remind them of the Brechtian techniques that they should include in their script, in their performance. And then I set this as a task that the boys do as individuals. And they come back in, this is a homework task, and they come back in with the scripts to experiment with using them in lesson. And I wrote, there's an example of a script that I wrote for the students. In fact, when I first did that, we were in lockdown. So I asked the boys to write these and then send them in to me. And this is one that I wrote for myself. There's an example showing how the characters change and how there's a lot of direct address to the audience, and characters multi-rolling, and how we can use projections, PowerPoint slides to suggest locations and things like that, and how it has a kind of political spin to it in terms of the argument about the fors and against of space travel. So there's an example of the script and then we had some fantastic scripts that the boys came up with inspired by the example that I gave them. And then the final stimuli, so there's 4 stimuli I give them across the course, the scheme of work, is the song Imagine by John Lennon. And we listen to the song. We watch a couple of videos. There's a video link there to a YouTube video where we see John Lennon in bed with Yoko protesting. And I talk to them about John Lennon and, was he a dreamer, or can world peace be achieved? This linked in really well with issues of COVID and isolation that we've had recently. And then I set the boy, this is a UNICEF version of Imagine video, that there's a link there to that. And then what I do is I get the boys to write their own poem or song, and I suggested that Brett often used speeches, songs and poems in his play to break up the action, to deliver his political ideas. So the boys went off and wrote speeches or songs or poems, and the theme of the speech was your aspirations for the world. How do you see the future? Is it going to be utopian, dystopian, mixture of both? And some boys wrote some brilliant speeches, which they then brought back into class and used in their pieces. So the first 4 lessons or so are exploring the different stimuli, and then we set the assessment task up. So the boys are then asked to choose one of the 4 stimuli to base their performance on. I give them specific lengths that the pieces should be. They can work in groups of 3 or groups of 4. I also do allow, and I think this is about engaging boys as well, if there's any boys that don't want to act, I do allow each group to elect someone to be a director if they'd like to do that and not act. I also allow boys to opt to be a lighting designer or a sound designer instead for their piece. So this is really good if you've got some boys by this point in year 9 that really don't want to do acting. We give them some other opportunities. Some boys want to be writers, script writers, so we might allow them to be the director who also writes the script for the piece. And we insist that the pieces are performed in this non-naturalistic style. One of the things I do, and I've done this with GCSE and A-level students as well, is talk about story structure, plot structure. And their boys have found this really helpful because they can start writing a piece, but they get a bit stuck with how to end it. So this was sent to me, a video made by Dan Harmon, the creator of the cartoon Rick and Morty, of an 8-point beat structure that you can use. And this is a really good video that you can watch with the students where Dan Harmon explains the structure to the audience, and the boys find this really interesting. They all lots of them know the program Rick and Morty, and there's some clips of Rick and Morty in the video, so they engage quite well with that. I also show them a number of splendid theatre performances. We look at Wojciech by Splendid. We've looked at Everyman by Splendid as well, because these productions are very much in the Brechtian style. You can get the DVDs of their productions through their website. You can buy a sort of pack of their DVDs, and we upload those onto our school system, so boys can watch those. So we do show them clips from a number of different Brechtian performances as well, which really help them. Go back to my scheme of work, because there's a couple of things I wanted to mention before I go on to assessment. Bear with me a second. Okay, so we've got the 4 stimuli. Another thing I do is I have a PowerPoint called Brecht True and False, where I give them some statements, and the boys have to say whether they're true or false, which reinforces their learning about Brecht. So I can provide that PowerPoint for people if people are interested. I haven't put it into this presentation, but I can do that. It's just very simple PowerPoint with statements, and then afterwards it tells them, the boys, whether they're true or false. So when we go on to the main project, as I said, I look at getting the boys to create a scene, or 1 or 2 scenes each lesson. So they're building on the performances that go along. And then at the end of the project, we have the assessment. Now, what I did last year, which I think worked really, really well, is boys also like a bit of competition, and they also like prizes. And it being the end of year 9, and with some of these boys, I've taught them for the full 3 years. So we have what's called the year 9 drama competition. So what I do is I say to the boys that we are going to have a competition, and there's 6 classes across the whole of year 9 at our school. So once all the performances have been done, I will announce the best piece in each class, and they get a prize. And then across the whole of year 9, I'll look at the 6 most successful pieces, and then I'll select one piece that I will give the award for the best piece last year. So we had a number of pieces that achieved A grades, 1 or 2 pieces achieved A-star grades, and then I looked at the 2 A-stars, and then I decided on one group. And then we had a presentation in their assembly where I got some little trophies and engraved for them. So there's a website that you can use where you can get trophies engraved with people's names on them, a little statement about the competition. So this is the mark scheme that I use, and every student is marked individually. I do give the students a group grade, but then within that I will perhaps adjust the grades slightly. Again, I put the GCSE numbers here as well, just to give them a sense of, oh, if I was choosing GCSE, what kind of grade would that be an equivalent to? Explain, obviously, this is year 9, and there would still be a lot of learning at GCSE in year 10 and year 11, and that even getting an A-star now would mean you necessarily would be a level 8 or grade 9 level yet. But it gives the boys a really good idea. Once they've done the monologue, naturalistic acting, once they've done the practical devised group project, they've got those 2 grades, plus all the grades that they've got from year 7 and 8. I think it gives them a really good idea about how successful they may be at GCSE. So here's the mark scheme that I use for the devised project, and here's the slide I use for the Brechtian drama competition. And that is the end of my presentation. But if Rob or Seb, if you have any questions or anything you want to ask about any of that, you're more than welcome to ask.
Yeah, I did write a few questions now, if that's okay, Carl, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
I just wondered, because I teach OCR GCSE, so I can see how well that's sort of planned to almost being bespoke for year 9, but also having those really clear elements of the way that devising works at GCSE, but without going, we're now going to do a GCSE. Do you know what I mean? The way that it's graded, the little way that you're sort of guided through the process, which I think sometimes is from my own practice, thinking back to maybe when I was a younger teacher, was when I did devising, I sort of expected them to just get on with it, rather than having those really clear sort of, here's what we're going to do, we're going to freeze frame, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and guide them through it first of all. Just in terms of, because there's quite a bit in there of them writing, and I suppose my question in my head is, how do you get much resistance to that, or is because they're so engaged in the process, like the fact that they are sitting writing and doing monologues and all of those things, day to day, how much resistance do you get to that?
You do get some resistance from a small number of students in the class that don't like writing. I think what I tried to do is get them to improvise things first, and then explain to them the value of them writing those things up afterwards, so they don't forget. I think with improvisation, when I was younger, we used to just improvise plays. We never used to write anything down, and we used to remember what we did, and then we recreate it for an improvisation. But I think at GCSE level, the requirements for the devised piece are so challenging now that I insist that every group write a script for a devised piece at GCSE or A level, because again, they want really complex lighting and sound and things like that. They want someone to run that. They need a script to make sure the cues are all right. So it's that sense of, not just making it up on the day kind of attitude. I want it, I want that devised piece by the end of it to be actually very well structured and very well organized. So the boys see the value, I think, once they've improvised, of then having someone within the group who's a scribe, or someone jumps on. I have a few computers in my drama studio, so I'll get students to jump on a computer and tap out a script, and then I'll set homework for the students to go up and type up the scenes that they've created, and they'll send the script through to me, and then I'll have it on my computer with some tech. I've got my lighting and my sound, so then I can say, okay, well, what music do you want in this? What sound do you want in this? What lighting do you want in this? And the boys really like that element of incorporating lighting and sound into their pieces, so they're not just focusing on acting, but they're also thinking about the whole thing. So the boys do really enjoy that. And as I said in my presentation, there are boys that don't want to act, but they love learning how to use the lighting. So they say, well, I'll decide what lighting, I'll pick some music for this or some sound effects for this. And so they get involved in that. And there are boys that really like writing, but don't want to act. So they say, well, I'll be the script writer. I'll put all the text, I'll watch the rehearsals and write everything down, what you're saying, and put a script there. And I think that leads in really well to the work that we do at GCSE and A level as well. And, it gets them going, those, especially sort of like directing skills as well. Some boys, when you say you can just direct, you don't have to act, they're really like, oh, brilliant, yeah, I can just sit and watch and just make suggestions and do things. They love doing that as well, and it just gives us more of a range of activities that Year 9 boys can do. I've got classes of, as I said, 30, and you don't want to be in constant battles with them, so you're just trying to give them different opportunities to do different things that perhaps they haven't had the opportunity in maybe Year 7 and 8, where it's been mainly acting focused. So yeah, that works really, really well. And it just, you always get a few in each class that are reticent, and it's very much about groupings as well, making sure your groupings are quite careful, and making sure that every group's going to function well, so you don't have any behavior problems if you've got like a group that are just causing you some stress. So I do have quite a lot of say in making sure that we don't get a group that are just going to be dysfunctional as well.
I think that idea of the improvisation side of the idea of setting them up with a good idea, they're much more likely than to write, because there's nothing worse and none of us want to be in a situation where we've got a blank page and we've got no idea what we're going to do, which again would start to cause the bits where maybe they would get a little bit more distracted or whatever. So I think that's a really, really good point that I'd be taking away from that. And I really love the Katie Mitchell thing, and just bringing that in with those basic questions. I teach Katie Mitchell, but I've never use that approach with Year 9. Do you know what I mean? That's where we're going. That's a perfect thing to do, just to get them writing, but also it shows them that their understanding and their knowledge is there in a really clear, precise way, where they're still having to engage with the thinking, but also almost prove it, which is, you know, sort of the big thing at the minute in education. So yeah, really, really good.
I think the important thing with engaging boys is the stimuli that you give them. And so the moon landings, the surreal image, the Imagine, the John Lennon thing. We've used different stimuli in the past that didn't work with the year group, with boys, and so we've changed it. So it's every year it's a bit of like, well, did that work with your class? I'm not the only person who teaches year 9, so my colleague does this scheme of work as well. And in the past, you'll come to me and say, oh yeah, we did this previous stimuli, it didn't work. So I'll say, okay, let's find something else that works. So the tripping policeman is like one that's always worked. The boys are always like that. And again, with Humpty Dumpty, going back to the Stanislavski in year 9, this play boys just love it. You know, I wouldn't necessarily do it with a mixed class or girls. I'd find something else, because I don't think this play would engage so well with girls. But the boys just love it. And there's some fantastic scenes with the police and interrogation. So it's finding the right stimuli for your kids as well, I think. You know, these stimuli are tried and tested with our boys, but you know, in another school environment, you might say, well, we'll try Carl's project, but we won't do that play. We'll do this play because that play will work better for our kids, or we won't do these stimuli because our kids won't like this. We'll do these stimuli instead. But the structure of the schemes of work, you know, could still be very similar, and the activities and the process could still be very, very similar. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's the content that you're giving them, you know. And if I see it's not working, I'd say, well, okay, guys, you don't like some kids in the group, they don't go for the artwork, they don't like it, or some kids don't go for the Imagine, or some kids don't go for the moon landings, not interested. But hopefully within the 4 stimuli that I give them, one of them will get their interest. You know, as we
I
go
suppose
through.
there's opportunities for other people to, because I know with OCR they give you 10, don't they? So maybe even the one student voice where per class they can pick their top 3, and then you can focus in on those or something. It's sometimes useful, isn't it? I suppose it's a little bit like TripAdvisor. Sometimes giving too much option, it can cause you more problems. But
I think 4's enough. I mean, I did know a teacher that was doing the OCR course that just had a year 10 class and had the 10 and said, here's the 10. Oh, don't do that. What are you doing? Take one and then try that, see how they like that one, and then if they don't like that, go to number 2. You know, and there's certainly when I was I don't teach the OCR course anymore, but when I was teaching it, I looked at the 10 myself, and immediately it scrapped 5 that I just thought, I'm not going to even show those to my boys, because I don't think they'll like them. I'm going to try these 5 first, and if they engage with those, great, we'll just do those. I didn't even want them to know about some of the others, because I thought, I just think we'd be wasting our time, and I don't think the work they'll create will be successful with those ones. So Battle of the Somme, yes, great. Let's look at that first, because that's a great start. Well, the boys are obsessed with war and soldiers and army and stuff. So we'll start with that, and then we'll go from there, see how we crack on with that. So I think it is about choosing the right material for your kids. And my kids are, you know, all boys, grammar school students. So there's certain material that will work for them. But if I was in another school, different cohort, different players in the country, you know, I would definitely be looking at my stimuli and going, I don't think the stimuli is going to work with these guys. Let's try this or try that. You know, for example, you know, most of our students are white, so that there's that. If I was working in a school where it was a real diverse community, I'd be looking for more diverse stimuli, I think, so for them to engage with, because I want the students to find the stimuli that's this works for us. We like this. Or and again, you know, with this Stanislavski project, plays that I think they'll engage with, and I think they'll go, yeah, this is cool. We like this, because I don't ever want the kids to say, oh, this is boring, or this isn't interesting. We don't want to do this. I always want the material that I give them to be something that's going to get them interested, because that's half the battle with behaviour. If they look at something and go, oh, this is boring, no, I don't like this, then you've lost half the class, you know, almost straight away.
That's super. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's loads of teachers out there who will see, you know, year 9 boys on engagement and be like, right, straight on that. So that's really, really good. Thank you for
no problem.
The presentation.
Thanks so very much for having me. Cheers, guys.
Okay, some really useful things across today. We're coming up to our final speaker, Duncan, who's going to be talking about Artaud. But just to recap on a couple of things first. So please, just to make it clear, if you haven't done the selfie competition, please, if you do that now, that includes if you're on the recorded version of this. So this doesn't have to maybe just be fixated to the timeline of now when we're live. So, you know, if you're listening to this on recording, please take part in that. And you can win those great drama stickers from We Love Stationery. We've had lots and lots of information today about curriculum, so I'm just going to quickly rattle through some of them as Duncan is setting up. We had a real focus on knowledge, talking about sequencing. We've talked about, you know, finding the right knowledge and sequence for your students, changing and adapting scheme of works if things aren't working, making sure things are as relevant as they can be. That idea of, you know, the mixture of knowledge and model and retrieval and how we're embedding that. I know that's something from my point of view that I'm going to be focusing on this term as part of my overall department targets for SLT. And then just this idea of, you know, some of the stuff that Carl's just mentioned there about, you know, the curriculum being really challenging but also creative, making sure that it fits the GCSE. That's a really important thing with Year 9. You know, if people are students are going to be choosing GCSE, yes, we want it to be engaging, we want it to be creative, but we also want to make sure they know what they're getting themselves into, I suppose, in terms of the level that they're going to be having to work at. And I thought Carl did a great job there of giving us an example of that type of work and how it could work for the boys in his care. The idea of guiding them through their learning and how that mixture of devising and script and short, sharp sort of tasks to build them into that process so they're more engaged at the times where they're sort of taking over and taking a lead in their learning. So lots for us to think about, and obviously resources and links, and you can contact our speakers directly on Twitter if you want to ask them any more questions. So I'm just going to check if Duncan is ready.
Yeah, he's just running behind a little bit, I'm afraid, Rob. So if you could just sort of keep recapping for us. We may do a little quick ad break. He's just had a bit of a problem with his car.
Okay, no problem.
He's going to need another. We'll probably be live with Duncan from probably 1:10, so a little bit later than advertised.
That's fine. I can go through some of the things I was going to do later, so I'll do that.
Great. All right, thanks, mate.
No problem. So just to recap on a couple of things that I was going to do at the end. So making sure, please, that you've got a date in your diary of the 12th of March. That's when we're hoping, fingers crossed, that there's going to be TM Drama Icons Teachmeet in person somewhere in Manchester. Obviously, dates and timings and things will come out at a later date and how that will sort of look and feel. But keep that date in your diary if you could. In addition, if you've been watching today or you're watching on the recording and you've been looking at our speakers and going, oh, I could really offer something there, whether it's a particular practitioner, whether it's a particular, you know, focus within lessons, whether it's, you know, engaging people with A-level, I don't know, the number of things that you could maybe offer some expertise on or something. Sharing a scheme of works, sharing a practitioner maybe that today we've not spoken about, any more technical elements. I know today we had a really good bit of CPD on sound, but there may be some, you know, lighting technicians or people who have that as a focus. Then please on TM Drama Icons, drop a message onto that Twitter and let us know that you're interested in possibly giving us a speech on that. Just to recap some of the things for the day, which I was going to do later, but I'll do now. So we've had, please remember to check out, which I'll be doing on Monday, Brett's talk about the pupil progress. Really useful resource, particularly if you're a Pixel school. So if you're sat there now and you're a Pixel school, then you can have access to that. And in terms of, you know, recording data and recording exam work and knowing where students are at, anything that is going to save you time, make things more concise, and make, you know, your ability to report things and allow students to gain really valuable in-depth feedback based on data, because data technically, from my point of view, is something that I'm often terrified by. But that system just seems to work, and I'm not somebody who's necessarily au fait with Excel. But, you know, I can make a grid and put numbers in it, but beyond that, I would be running to one of my other heads of the department in the school asking me to help with that, as I was for months last year with CAGs. We had Lucy and Eva talking about sound design and Foley sound and the use of that within the classroom, which I thought was absolutely excellent. Something that I'm going to be taking into our A-level teaching when we're doing Emma Rice and Knee High this week. but also a great scheme of work, an idea of how you could work for lockdown if you've got students doing work at home. That idea of applying sound and narration together, I think, is a really, really good idea, and some really good in-depth resources there. Again, we teach drama, and some of the work that they're doing there, please look them up. There's loads of really good free resources that they're doing there. Then we had Sarah and Beth. We were looking at use of outside agencies with specific sort of focus on theatre companies and how you could use those within your curriculum. Really, really important in terms of looking at the relevance of the curriculum, which I know is a big focus at the moment. The how and why we are teaching and what we are teaching has been on the agenda now for quite a bit of time, and I know that a lot of drama teachers are going to be looking at that while they're starting to set up their targets and objectives and blue skies or whatever system that you use to do that this year. So it might be that you can take some of those ideas and go, look, my focus this term is going to make sure that I'm tying in a theatre practitioner to a scheme of work, and use that. And again, now that we've got people on Twitter who might be interested in that, working together to create a scheme of work is always a really good idea, and sharing ideas across the board. Again, things like, open drama and drama matters and the things like that, they're out there, are always really good resources to help with those things. A reminder to check out Teachers Love Stationery, who are one of our sponsors today, and some of the amazing things that they're making and using for either uses with your form. There was that lovely advent calendar idea that in the run to Christmas maybe, or even gifts for people, or just something that you want to buy for your classes to praise them on pieces of work and things like that. So check those out. We had Georgina talking about her year 7 and 8 curriculum, which I thought was magnificent. I thought that just how much value I would have got as particularly as a young teacher to be guided through someone's curriculum, I think, is really, really important, and just to hear the decisions that they've made and how they've made them, why they've made them. One of the sort of big things of not being on the national curriculum that I think is great about drama is that we get to choose what we teach and which scripts, and that means that we can tailor those specifically to our subjects. So that's amazing. And then obviously we had Wellbe, who again another one of our sponsors with their ads, so check those out in terms of wellbeing for teachers. And then Carl Speaks, just there, really excellent, looking specifically at boys and the year 9 curriculum and adding challenge and creativity and drive into what they're doing. So that's a recap of the day. I think Duncan might be ready now, so I'm going to hand over to him to talk about Artaud. Hi, Duncan.
Hello, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. I just had to leg it from another place, so I'm slightly out of breath. I do apologise. Can you see my PowerPoint?
I can't see it yet, no.
What do I have to do to...
I think if you click share screen, and it should come up.
Share screen. Is there a box or something, Rob?
Yeah, there should be. I think it's at the bottom. There's a share button. It's just like mute, stop, come share.
On StreamYard, yeah. There we go.
Got it.
Share screen. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see your screen now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Apologies, everyone. Hello, I am Duncan from St Mary's School, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about approaches to delivering Artaud. Kind of, first of all, disclaimer or disclosure, I don't pretend to be an expert on old Antonin, nor would I want to be. We all take from him what we kind of need as drama teachers, I think.
Hi, Duncan. Sorry, mate. We just need you to click on the presentation so we can see it. So your screen is being shared, but it's still saying that you're opening the file.
Okay.
It's sort of frozen on the screen where you've double clicked on it. I don't know if there's just a very big lag. Do you want me to? I can share it from my screen if you prefer. Oh, it seems to be working now. I can see your mouse moving. That's
okay.
it. So double click on that, and then it should come up for us. Yeah, it's just not. I think it might be better if I share it, but then I'll have to stay on the screen. You'll just have to tell me when to change slides.
Yeah, I haven't.
Shall we try that?
Give us a sec. I mean, the thing is that I've added to it since I spoke to you, Seb.
Okay.
So let me get.
Yeah, it's not. All we can see is your computer screen, but not the.
You can't see that at the moment. You can't see the actual.
It says Artaud presentation, but we're not. It's not coming up.
Okay. Let's try again. That?
No.
It's saying he's sharing a window.
I think you need to do entire screen.
Okay.
Rather than window. Well, I don't think it matters actually, but it should. It's not coming up. I can use the one you sent me.
Okay. Stop sharing.
Do you want me to try? Do you want me to share it my end?
I'm just giving one last go. Entire screen. Click. Share system audio. Yeah, it's not letting me, Seb. So you'll have to do it.
All right, let me do it my end. Then you'll just have to talk me through when you want me to click on.
Yeah. I'm actually, Seb.
Yeah.
I'll just if I just send you the latest version, and I'll just talk a little bit about.
I don't think I'll be able to get that up, mate. I'll have to use the one you sent me before.
All right. Okay.
Because it'll take me too long to get. Let me just use the one you sent me earlier.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, because otherwise.
Yeah. I know we're going over. Right. Okay, everyone. I'm really sorry about this. It was all ready to go and best laid plans and all that. So anyway, I'm Duncan from St Mary's School, and I'm just going to say a little bit about my approaches to Artaud, and basically I use him in my induction in kind of year 12. We do it as a kind of 3-part induction where we give a little bit of Stanislavski, a little bit of Brecht, and a little bit of Artaud. The first thing we do is so if you go to so there's the first slide. So basically the goose that lay the golden eggs is because Artaud lends himself so well to kind of the kind of distortion of folk tales, that we give this as an opening kind of salvo, just an opening exercise in which the instructions that you see in the middle of the screen, we give that. So we do some that are naturalistic for Stanislavski, some that are epic theatre for Brecht. Now, obviously, just looking at some of Carl's presentation, they would have probably done a lot of this. So it kind of serves as a recap. We don't tend to do anything. We do kind of the physical theatre companies, of which more later. We do those in kind of GCSE, but we don't tend to kind of touch on Artaud until later on in the process. It's a good way to get them thinking. So we start with the Brecht performance, then the Stanislavski performance, and then we hit them with the Artaud. And we encourage, so they've got all those instructions: exaggerant, violent, facial expressions, little recognizable dialogue, and an element of ritual and only a vague sense of plot. So they pick up on those ideas, and usually it will produce something, because Goose with the Golden Eggs, like a lot of these fairy tales, is fairly, you know, it's about revenge, it's about kind of it's about comeuppance, it's about greed, it's about very primal human emotions. It's the kind of thing that works really well, and if they are recapping Brecht and Stanislavski, then they can kind of deliver that in a fairly accurate manner, and then Artaud gives them a chance to kind of explore slightly more outre methods of performance. One thing that I was going to say in the intro is I had a really good workshop years ago with a guy called Paul Allain, who is kind of like a doyen of Grotowski, Gcse Grotowski kind of teaching. And he said at the beginning to all of us, he said, because I was quite into that stuff at that time, and he said to us, beware of just doing it like they're screaming and rolling around the floor. And I thought, oh God, that's how I deliver it. But in a way, I think sometimes it's good to let the students kind of enjoy that. I think if it is about kind of modes of expression which are more kind of violent and more expressive, and then a little bit of kind of shouting and hissing and whispering does them a world of good. Okay, Seb, thank you very much. Could we have the next slide, please, Maestro? So my opening exercise, I've basically divided my Artaud teaching into 4 separate strands, and they all kind of deal with a kind of different element of, as I say, I'm not a disciple of the man, but in terms of how you run with his ideas, because his ideas are always going to be more important than his practice. In terms of practice, you'd always reach for, if you're doing like the Edexcel A-level ID, you'd always reach for someone like Frantic Assembly or knee-high, because you can reach for your big book of frantic techniques. With Artaud, it's more about ideas. So I've kind of divided his kind of thoughts into 4 different strands, which I explore. These could take a couple of lessons, or you could workshop them into more detail. You're welcome to kind of, you know, pick and choose and run with stuff. I mean, that's what I would do. So the first kind of strand, if you like, is basically after a couple of opening exercises, I do something I learned at a Royal National Theatre, based on the idea of that all Artaudian work, essentially, or performance, is based on 2 basic tenets, and the first one is the iconic, as in the actual act. Okay, so the kind of godlike act. And then the deictic, which is the response to that act. So everything is kind of based around that kind of the kind of graphic, euphoric nature of the act, and then the kind of how that dominoes, how that affects others. And so the act has got to be dramatic, and also the response, therefore, because the act is dramatic or heightened or stylized, and the response should also be kind of stylized. And we start with an exercise. The smoking exercise is very simple. You know, that a smoker who loves it, you divide the class in half. Half of them are smokers, and that euphoric bliss, and the other half who've given up smoking kind of look at them and yearn. Okay, and then you cut it to a year later, and the smokers less blissfully inhale, but then they hack and they cough, and then the other half mock and point and laugh in a kind of cackling way. It's always good to do a couple with Artaud. I always find a couple of vocal exercises. You know, Grotowski is always good for that. So, you know, use your voice like a tiger, or drill a hole through the wall with your voice, and kind of thing. You know, in a way, there's kind of always a danger of Artaud. So it says, right, do it in an Artaudian manner. Okay, so if you give them a couple of kind of, you know, give them a line or a line of a song, and do it like a ringmaster, or do it like, or whisper it like there's someone following you down the street, it's always good kind of preparation for the things like the laughing and the mocking, rather than just say it, do it loud, or do it where the intonation rises, that you've actually given them opportunities to do that. And then I would get them to do 2 of Artaud's poems. Now, in the proper PowerPoint, which Seb unfortunately doesn't have, because of technical snafus. I've put the 2 poems that I use on the next slide. Okay, so when I send that to Seb, and if Seb wants to kind of put that on, you can see them. But they're both his poems. Dark Poet is about his being kind of abandoned, dark poet. It's about his harsh woman's mouth. He's been dumped basically, but he's been dumped as only a 1920s French auteur can be. And it's got lots of beautiful sibilant language, like life sees and life burns and the pen scratching. So what I do with that is that I narrate it and they just instant act it. So they just find a space, they kind of make it come alive. That I say, you're not showing this. So it's all about in their own kind of circle of attention, and they just kind of bring it to life. And it's, there's some really strange imagery, like poets mounting horses and dogs and riding through a forest of pinions. And my experience of this is that it does kind of release them. They know that they're not showing this. It is kind of a jump, but nevertheless, it's the jump to the next stage, which is a dramatization of the next poem, Verlaine Drinks, which is about kind of Verlaine drunk in the kind of turn of the century Paris drinking dens, and that I get them to start to play with choral speech, to start to play with ensemble movement. They do enact it as it's spoken. It's 3 verses, so you can divide the verses, and it's like a good introduction both to the iconic and the deictic, the act and the response, and that is both in subject matter and form, because they are responding to what you do. But then that gives them a good opportunity to present that second poem. And as I say, on the actual PowerPoint, the proper one, you will see that you can, those poems are ripe for dramatic interpretation in a very Artaudian way. Could you jump for me, Seb, please? Okay, so what I then tend to do is, particularly when we were less bound by specific. If you're doing the edXL, you are marked by, you have to do a specific extract, you have to do a specific practitioner. In the old days, I used to have more time to kind of explore this, but I still find that it's really kind of useful, is that if you're working with poetry lends itself to Artaud, especially more kind of figurative poetry, because it allows them to be more expansive, and it allows them to riff on lines which are not prose. I use war poetry. David Jones in parentheses is the finest example of, I think, of World War I poetry, because it's so weird and well worth checking out. It's a long poem, so you just use a couple of verses. Arthur Rimbaud, the kind of French auteur, the prison orgy, that always gets them quite excited. When they get there, it's more about euphoria than any sexual content. More of that later. But they, again, it's about an explosion, a kind of riot on the streets. It takes you back to a certain kind of period in time, but it is about the kind of untrammeling, that kind of fin de siècle kind of freedom that people felt then. And then finally, the Mersey sound is great. So if you know Roger McGough, all of that, there's lots of kind of, Adrian Henry in particular writes in a very fragmented, kind of cut up fashion, which really allows itself for kind of Artaudian development. And the one that I've put on there is the beat poet. So you might use Allen Ginsberg's Howl, or Ferlinghetti's He. And you can see there that first verse, his unbuttoned vision is the door in which he stands and waits and hears the hand that knocks and claps and knocks his death. I mean, in some ways it's fairly obvious stuff, but it allows them to kind of explore modes of kind of performance that aren't bound by lines of dialogue. So once you've done the Artaud poetry, it's always quite nice to extend those ideas. And again, always the act and the response, the act and the response. Thank you, Seb. Next slide, please, maestro. I then, second strand then, so that's the first strand. Second strand, the idea of chaos. If you know the Jet of Blood, it's Artaud is essentially his one written play. It's only a couple of pages long. It's scatological, it's sexual, it deals with themes of human destruction and plague, and you know, it's very kind of sharply written into kind of a series of duologues and short group scenes, and it's just completely strange, and again, for students I tend to find it invigorating, but because it's only a couple of pages long, you can easily find it. Le Jet de Sang, you can find it on Wikipedia. You've got the whole script there, and if you kind of place them in two, so they all work through the duologues, and then they all do the kind of group movement. Again, that idea of the action, the response, the fall of the locusts, the general plague, general kind of destruction, cities being destroyed, all of that stuff, they can do that together. A few sound effects really kind of reinforce the work that they are doing. And I've put a couple of warm-ups on all my slides. They don't necessarily belong to Artaud, but someone like Simon McBurney, who is Complicité's founder, obviously, you know, you can kind of cherry pick the people he's influenced in terms of, you know, the kind of the warm-ups you choose. McBurney's dynamic, the idea of ripping yourself up like as if you're a piece of paper, dissolving like a sugar cube in tea, all of that kind of stuff is kind of good preparation for the kind of more you know, the work that they're going to do later in the lesson. Consequences is brilliant because unfailingly, you know, it is the game of consequences. If you give them a list, the titles are there, you give them a little list of everything that they do. They write a little line for each, and then they kind of hand in the bowl. They'll choose one sheet with a list of really strange non sequiturs on them. It's the idea of using non sequiturs, juxtaposing them, and they have to produce a short play, which is a really good step to the Jet of Blood, because they always tend to be, in my experience, quite funny. Remember, humour is part of Artaud as well, not something I dwell on particularly, but it is. But also it's that idea of a kind of like a nightmare come to life. So that's always quite good for Jet of Blood. Thank you, Seb. Next one. Then I start to build ideas of narrative, but that's when I row back on the dialogue. So it's all about sound. Another exercise to start with here is Grotowski's masks. Which, if you don't know, is basically the idea that your face becomes a mask of, you know, again, a heightened emotion, joy, fear, sadness. And if you get them kind of like that, you get them to mow the lawn or write a letter. And again, the kind of the sustaining of that is a good discipline, but also it has a really kind of curious effect. Use that then for the Artaud ideas, the instant symbols. I think Andy Kemp, you know, used a lot of this work when he was kind of first writing his kind of seminal text, you know, so that they get just used to thinking in terms of not expressing narrative yet, but nevertheless using themselves to create symbols like, I don't know, deceit, defensiveness, frustration, all good, rich stuff. They use those extended symbols to kind of create moments, dramatic moments, just using sound, like a sudden flaring up of a street fight, like that. So again, it's that kind of instant. You don't give them long to do it. So how can you show that? Just through sound, through movement, through ensemble work, through a group, and then use for a narrative. The three I use: boy meets girl, seduction, or young rebel. They're all kind of linked to the Jet of Blood. If you kind of, again, say you're making links of his work and his themes, you know, the kind of the idea of theatre being kind of unlocked, theatre being in touch with our dreams, theatre being bigger than life, and theatre making us feel something that we don't normally feel. I also then start to kind of make some links with the later work, the 70s, Peter Shaffer, Equus, you know, think about kind of lighting, think about shadows, think about sound collage, start to kind of build those ideas into their final kind of presentation. Thank you, Seb. Fourth strand is this idea that he uses a constant kind of ceremony of rhythm, of kind of tribal beats. Again, most drama teachers probably groan when they see the word essence machine, but I think Kevin Piper, who led a brilliant thing with me years ago, said that an essence is actually about capturing an essence. Citrus is always a good one to start with, so that they are creating a repeated movement of like a lemon. And then kind of build that, and it has or spring or winter. So it's not just about a space. If it is about a space, if you are creating space, I always say to the students, because they've probably done stuff, you've probably done stuff this all the way through. I mean, we do stuff like this in year 9 where we are now, but it is about that kind of idea of distortion. So there is a ceremony, but you have one focal character. If it's an office, it's one person who can't keep up with the work. So they either go at double speed or they go kind of slow, distorted, you know, and that kind of affects the whole thing. So if you've started with the game machine, that idea of the machine kind of collapsing in on itself, you can play with that in terms of characters, as in terms of the essence machine. I then would use that for something like a coronation or an execution. So repeated movement, apart from either the queen or the king, whoever's been crowned, that they move, your focal character moves through this. But the other characters repeat their movement. So again, it has a sense of routine, it has a sense of inevitability. Inexorability is the word probably that we should be going for. An execution is a bit grisly, but if you do it like you know, an American execution, like instead of the throne, it becomes the you know, the electric chair, you know, because again, you know, themes of death, themes of punishment are very kind of central to kind of a lot of Artaud's writings. Again, in the proper slide, I'd put the music on there, but this is where I start to use music more. So any of the systems music, Philip Glass, Steve Reich, John Adams, any of those kind of minimalist composers. Akhenaten works brilliantly. It's all on YouTube for the kind of coronation and the execution kind of scene. So you'll start at that sense of kind of the kind of sheer kind of rhythmic, and it informs what they do. Then I might start to, okay, well, we've got this kind of repeated movement. Let's really just kind of explore that movement. Let's kind of change it around. So we do, if you know body memory, it's where they're in pairs and one person manipulates the other into spaces and movement that they wouldn't inevitably do. So you can only move when you're being pushed. So that creates a very jerky kind of fractured kind of movement. You then take the manipulator away, and then you get this really strange effect of all these kind of jet, like a 19th century asylum or something. I tend to use something like Tom Waits' Bone Machine. That album is very kind of guttural and industrial, but you probably could, you know, any Spotify list will provide music that you could use for that. And I finish with the old kind of Sally Mackey exercise, The Plague, because for Artaud, theatre should be like the plague, as in all social barriers down. It's a point where nothing really works, so all you have is yourself and this kind of decaying or this open space. And that's a great exercise. They love doing it. So you space them out all kind of like in a circle, an outer circle, an inner circle, and a central person. Turn the lights off, give it some sound effects, some bonging of church bells, boom, boom. And the people on the outside start to cough, it starts to infect them, they move towards the centre, they infect the people in the centre, they all move towards the very centre, the epicentre, and they all keel over and die, just leaving the kind of sound effect. So that idea of being at the centre of a vortex, both for performer and for audience. If you put your audience, it's very strange for the person in the middle. If you leave them with their eyes open, that is kind of popular because it's coming from everywhere. And that possibly is the kind of best kind of Artaud thing you could do. All right, Seb. Then for body memory, sorry, I use art is used a lot, kind of Artaud's black paintings, Goya's black paintings, but you could use surrealist stuff, you know, Dali. Again, I saw Khan using Dali, but I tend to find something, you know, there's something very strange about these last paintings that Goya painted. If you just look up black paintings, they were painted on the walls of his house in the last years of his life, and they've got a very strange, dark, processional, witchy kind of feel to them. So if you kind of use the kind of body memory, you can add sticks, so that starts to play with the idea of, you know, the kind of Artaud's manipulation of stage space, of using puppets so they become kind of marionette-like, and you can create a nice little thing. Okay, that's so. Again, this is a slide, you'll see the finished one, but it leads to all different practitioners. Birkhoff is the obvious one. Birkhoff is probably done to death, but I do love him, and it's the clearest link. So in terms of actual technique, like, you know, that your Birkhoff smear, your base pulse, your Buffon, you're making large, you're making kind of exact the kind of things that Artaud is put in the ether, but you've got Peter Brook, you've got In Your Face Theatre with Sarah Kane, you've got Absurdism, you've got all the kind of, you know, Les Enfants Terribles, anyone knows that group, Ernest and the Pale Moon. You know, there are clear links to all of those, and as I say, in my actual PowerPoint you'll see the pictures. You know, I've put loads of plays that I've kind of used that have a strong Artaudian bent. The only other thing, again, kind of last slide, is that in the old days, I used to develop it. We used to kind of have Angela Carter work, Scott Walker music. There's a load of different things that you can use as a more developed. So if you're taking these ideas, you can develop them with a host of different stimuli. And so apologies because you know, you've got the unfinished one, but they're all there as well. So if you want to check that out, by all means. And that is how I use Artaud. And apologies for
the beginning. Yeah. No, don't worry. Yeah. No, the beginning was a bit rusty, but that's you. I know you had some problems and with your school and networks and stuff. So listen, thanks for your time, Duncan. I think the main thing about your little session there, obviously, apart from your amazing subject knowledge, will also be the fact of those resources. So everything I will upload onto the big marker, which people sign up for free, and that has all the resources plus this entire recording. But I won't put that one on. I'll put when you send me the new one, I'll put the new one on there, and then people can use that, pick through it. And if they watch that in conjunction with what you've just said, I think you could do a whole scheme now. I've used a lot of those things you've talked about, but what you've done brilliantly there, I think, is put them all together in a very organised way. You know, I tend to do that Plague, and I tend to do the Little Miss Muffet, all of those things, but they're all random. Whereas what you've done is put it into a lovely systematic curriculum. So thanks very much, Duncan. Have a lovely Saturday.
Thank you, Seb. Sorry about the beginning, but it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Great. I wouldn't be Artaud if there wasn't a little bit of chaos. That's no problem. So just to sum up, I mean, 3 hours has gone really, really quickly, but there's so much stuff in there. I mean, I just find it amazing that we get this sort of free CPD from all these, you know, expert teachers doing a range of wonderful things, and you know, just I suppose makes you feel a little bit warm and fuzzy about being a drama teacher, and the fact that people are willing to share these resources and these ideas. So please sign up to the big marker. Make sure you can use those things. If you are using them and you're finding them go well, please, you know, connect to those speakers who've shared those resources and let them know, and keep those conversations going, because it's so important to what we do that we don't feel isolated and we've got people to share with. A huge thank you to the sponsors for today. So Wellbe, People Progress, and Teachers Love Stationery, who without we wouldn't be able to run these sessions. So thank you to those, and check those out as well. And to our speakers, so Lucy and Eva, Sarah and Beth, Georgina, Carl and Duncan, for sharing their excellent knowledge with us, and also to Seb, one, for asking me to host, and two, for him being in the background, running around doing probably the hardest job of the day with all of the technical stuff. So thank you to him for making it all run really, really well. And that's the end. Remember the date of the 12th of March for our next Teach Meet, which hopefully will be in person in Manchester. And again, you can sign up to that at the Teach Meet website. Or if you're interested in doing a talk or presenting something there possibly, then please get in contact with us. But thank you for giving up Saturday. If you're watching this on the recording, please make sure you still do the selfie competition and get involved with Twitter conversations, and let us know what you're doing. Okay, thanks very much, everybody. Take care.